All right. Welcome out, everyone, to another episode with myself and Jordan from Waters Above Crypto. My name is Logan from Decode Your Reality. And today we're just winging it, right, Jordan? That's exactly how we wanted to start this podcast. Jordan, you just left it off of that. Let's just wing it.
Yeah.
So here we are. And we usually do that, right? We usually wing it.
It's the vibe.
It's the vibe. Yeah. And, I've been incognito for over 3 weeks now. I went back to the US and, I was helping a friend and seeing my family and people are wondering like, where did you go? And, and I haven't put any content out. I've been working on content like a madman, but I thought today was my first day back in Mexico. I got back yesterday, but today was my first official day.
Oh,
So
really? Wow.
yeah. And so I'm like, let's see if Jordan wants to do a podcast today. It's Sunday. So that's my little kind of my story for people that are wondering where I'm at and then why we're here today, because, what better way to bring back the content than jump in with your mind. So,
Yeah, man. Also, how was your trip?
yeah, it was amazing. I got to see my family. I haven't seen them in 2 years. And I was in Florida for a little bit. I was, besides doing decoding and all that kind of stuff, I'm a nutritionist and I do coaching and, I I kind of have this program where I go stay with people and I live with them and I basically, work out with them, cook for them, do the nutrition, feed them positive energy, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been an amazing journey. So.
Well, that's incredible. I didn't actually know that have you done that more than a couple times? Like, have you been doing that over the years? I've
been doing it over the years. Yeah. Yeah. And this person really needed my help. And, I didn't even hesitate. It just kind of fit in, and I feel like, I don't know about you, Jordan, and anybody listening out there in the decoding world. I feel like once you get really in tune with this code, you really just, to me anyway, this is how everything just starts to seamlessly fall into place for me. It's just like everything's happening like almost perfect. It's just insane. I don't know. Are you getting that as well?
Yeah, 100%. Also, I think, the more that I've decoded myself and also the incredible decode that you did for me, which I think we still have some more to do. And I'm so excited to get into that eventually. And so definitely the more that when I started actually learning gematria and teaching myself more about the depth of numbers and learning a little bit more behind their meaning, and the same thing with the letters that make up our alphabet, the more and more that I study that stuff. And also a lot has come to me from just thinking, just like breaking, like etymology, you just say words and you start to break them down and see where it all fits in. And it's quite incredible how much we overlook when it's all right in front of our face.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, it's kind of interesting because, you had mentioned the word etymology, and etymology is 35 in Chaldean, matching the word simulation, and all part of that simulation, that great 35. Anyway, I just want to throw that in there. You're going to hear,
wow.
Ladies and gentlemen out there, me and Jordan, and we're going to decode while no one's talking.
Yeah, the etymology breakdown with the 137 in English ordinal, that's massive. Because remember, I was born at 1:37 p.m. So,
yeah, that's very right. You have a very special birthday, birth time, birth city. That's what makes you the gem that you are. That 137 is really important. Yeah, because it's tied to, lights, camera, action, and barium, and 56. And the simulation is tied to the 35. So when you blend Chaldean with the English, it really gives us a nice variation, but a nice narration of the code kind of talking to us.
Yeah, I've been really seeing this number 47 quite a bit too, and etymology and full reduction cipher in gematria reduces down to 47, and we've been talking about that number quite a bit this whole year. I've been talking about it obviously in my work and my decodes over on my channel, but me and you have talked about it so much just on our discussion about the periodic table and coming back to silver.
Yes, silver and titanium. Titanium, keep in mind that titanium is tied to the Titans and the fallen angel story, and titanium's 22, but it has one of its atomic weights is 47.
Yeah. And that's kind of the way that I kicked off that Shemitah decode that I did for my Patreon. Oh, did you check that out fully?
Yeah, of course, bro.
Beautiful.
I was at the end of my night in bed watching that on my lap, dude. When I was in Florida, it was awesome.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a blast on that decode, and there's so much more to keep going with, but it's kind of like something where we just need to let it play out, especially when we're discussing the stock market and this particular year. It's not just about markets, it's about all the biggest wars we've had, the geopolitical events, and it's getting very obvious now why the world is so volatile. It's like you could bring up a dozen things. 3 4 years ago, you asked the average person what was going on, and it's like they could barely think of something. And now it's just there's so much to talk about. There's too much, actually. And that was probably one of the things that me and you have spent most of our time discussing, the influence and deception podcast we did, and also just how we use our attention. And at a time like this, it seems like it's very coordinated to bring people to their most emotional state.
Yeah.
So that way, when they're at their lows, it's a lot easier to control them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, those are good key points, because I think that, I'm really firmly in the belief of the primal versus the spirit, the ego versus the spirit. And that deception versus influence podcast you did I thought it was monumental, because I just, it's like you're trying to navigate through life, yet you want to stay detached from it in the best way that you can. So you're not really kind of playing the game, but you got to play it anyway. And it's a really challenging way to live your life, because it's so easy for life to get in the way and you get sucked right in and you're like, wait a minute, here I am going on 2 weeks of doing this habit. Why am I doing this? And it's just it can tie you up and really, bring you down to the lower levels if you let it. So
that's so true. And I was thinking about, because somebody was reaching out to me for counsel on things regarding diet and nutrition and stuff. And I told them that the food that you ate for the last 21 days is what your body is kind of ready to take on today. Yeah. So like when you consider such, it goes the same thing towards your mindset or your emotions, like the mentality and the mind state and the emotional body. Where you've been at for the last 21 days, for the last 3 weeks, is most likely how you're going to wake up feeling tomorrow. So one of the biggest ways that we could achieve our greatness is by pushing ourselves into an uncomfortable place. And all of our change comes from that, that desire to want to go through discomfort. So, that's a very important thing for people to remember, because although life might be uncomfortable right now for a lot of people, whether that be financially or whether it be emotionally, or over the past 2 years, there's been so much division amongst families, friends, relationships. But that uncomfortability is showing up in your life for you to have an opportunity to react to it. So if you react to it with love and gratitude, you're giving it that opposing force that it wants from you almost. And that right there is where we could conquer our problems or our traumas, or whatever you want to call it. Basically facing our shadow.
Oh yeah, well, that's deep, dude. Well said, deep, and very very accurate. Very, very accurate. I working with clients, when I do this health thing, I just, when I first start off with a client, I just observe what they do, for some time, without trying to force anything upon them. Like I give them suggestions and they'll take on a few things, but then I just observe their primal, because, really it's this dragon, this wolf, this primal inside of you that, wants to be fed. That whole Indian proverb, which wolf will you feed? Mm-hmm. And when you feed a wolf, and you don't feed a wolf, it's going to, get hungry or get satisfied. So it's just, I see a lot of the division that you're talking about, is that we've been talking about so much, is, people are just so influenced and they're feeding a certain wolf the majority of the time. And then when it's time to divide and time to argue and time to bicker, then that primal comes out, and it just, it's food every time you're feeding it. And I just wish people would really get this more, because our lives would become so much more enriched with the ripple effect. No pun intended on XRP, but maybe so.
Well, when we're feeling this that you're describing, like when we're the wolf that's ready to be fed, we're holding out our hand, like we're waiting for something. We're waiting for tomorrow to be the cure. and you got to be your own leader, you know. And at this time, I think too many people are leveraging on leadership, whether that be the local government or their fathers or their best friends or their boss or whatever. You know, we create these social hierarchies and these power hierarchies, and we believe in them so much that it actually keeps us as like an employee or a slave to that hierarchy. And just that little fix of the realization of what you truly are, how capable you truly are, for some people, for most perhaps, it's too much to bear. Like, you know, it comes back to that we were talking about the crown of thorns with the Jesus Christ story. It's like, yeah, when you get to that level, when you get to that place, it's like, are you ready for the crown of wisdom? Have you ever felt what it feels like to be in the know, like truly in the know? It requires a very, very strong individual, because the truth is sometimes very dramatic and can bring some anxiety and some depression into a life. Pretty much everyone I've ever met who is in their process of knowing took on a very dark energy in that process, because they're learning about the reality, you know, the truth. And it's so much easier to live in lies to keep the perpetual wheel spinning.
Yeah. That goes, that's all right in line with, oh God, dude, you and I run parallels so much. There's this great meme that I really favor. It's the rich man digs for treasure, the poor man complains about what he might find. And, you know, I think that's really where the world's at. They don't want to believe really how the constructs work. They just want to continually believe in what they've been programmed with, indoctrinated with. And even if I just wish people would really understand how magic works, because you just said it on your last podcast, by the way, that was your marathon, right? Was that your longest podcast ever, over 4 hours?
Oh, the live stream that I did this Friday. Yeah.
Nice. I was really happy about that. But anyway, you were saying it in that podcast, of, you know, if people just started taking the time they spend on being influenced and put it into influencing and being a creator, their lives would change. And then essentially the empire that's ruling the world would crumble really quickly, because they need the energy, your acknowledgement, those organizations, even the stories that have been written in books, they all need the energy of people in order for them to continually manifest or be manifested. But people, you know, television, and people say, I don't watch TV, but they're on the computer and the cell phone. It's the same thing, folks. So that whole thing of saying, I don't watch television, is rather ridiculous, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's like one black box to the next black box.
Yeah, exactly. We all do it. So just own it. We all are influenced by, but it's how much time you're being influenced. And, you know.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with what you do. It's how you do it.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing wrong with watching a movie. There's nothing wrong with listening to, you know, some theater that's coming out of the YouTube, or like, there's really nothing wrong about any of these things that are happening. When you are solely caught up in duality consciousness, you're always going to be within that trap. When you can, Prince said it actually, and I think I brought this up on my last live stream too, when he was accepting some sort of award. I think it was for like Yahoo, like when they were just kind of developing their email and whatever was going on back in the day. So he accepted this award, and he was basically just saying that, you know, play the game, but don't let the game play you.
Yeah.
But play the game, meaning don't not play the game.
Yeah.
Like he's not saying don't play the game.
Yeah.
You know, he's saying just play it, like, because it's inevitable. You're gonna have to do it. Like,
have to do it.
So I think there's like a little bit of the negative side of ego, where we are in our knowing phase. We're on our journey towards enlightenment, whatever you want to call it. And we feel so good saying like, fuck television, fuck Hollywood, fuck social media. But it's like, you're all kind of playing it anyways, you know? So instead of coming at it with that energy, just learn how it's a tool instead of a device to create destruction. Like, all these things that we're interacting with that are technological are actually beautiful. Like, me and you right now are in completely separate parts of the world, but we're able to connect with each other because of this technology. And people are going to watch it on YouTube, right? So you could say all you want negative about YouTube, but last time I checked, like, I have learned almost everything I know from YouTube. You know, I've learned how to change a tire on YouTube.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's, yeah, kudos and big shout out to YouTube. People, it was just saying that people, it irritates people. Why would you do like, dude, they host all my videos and I don't even pay them for it. You know?
Yeah, truthfully, because it doesn't even matter. Like at the end of the day, like I've heard people say this about so many other things where they talk negatively about a cryptocurrency or they'll call it fake, but then they use dollars to buy food. And it's like, well, the dollars are also fraudulent and make believe. Yeah, it literally says on it, this note is legal tender. And so, I mean, there is no reason to be like that, to have that energy when you could save that energy and use it towards serving self.
That's it.
And that's really, yeah, that's where I broke free of that trap as well. I think
that is it, bro. That's it. That's a round of applause. My cheesy round of applause.
Oh my God. Where you get that?
Man. That is the total thing. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the biggest truth bomb today, I think. Instead of giving your energy to other content creators or influencers, go take that energy, take it back and put it to something that you really, really love in your life and watch your life take off like a rocket. God, Jordan, that was great.
I love that applause sound.
Yeah, one more time, baby. Yeah. Yeah. We got a lot of fans over here.
We got to get that air horn sound.
Yeah. At my little podcast, I have the Rode. I use Rode products, and I have this thing called the Rodecaster Pro, and it has little buttons that.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, that you can, program and put different sound effects in.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that changed my way of consuming content was when they came out with that Netflix documentary called Wild Wild Country. Have you ever watched that?
That's the H.P. Lovecraft stuff, right?
No, it's the one that's about the Osho and the Rajneesh.
Oh, okay. No, I'm thinking of something else. No,
yeah.
I don't think I saw what you're talking about.
All right. Well, I mean, the long story short, I was living in Portland, Oregon at the time, and essentially there's this guru who lived in India, and he relocated his ashram and all the people that were part of this group over to this remote place in Oregon. So I was living in the area at the time, not specifically there, but I was living in Portland. And when this documentary came out, it was huge because it was like a Netflix original and, it was getting a lot of popularity. And I don't want to get too deep into it. People should definitely go out of their way to watch this if they want to learn where I'm going with this whole thing. But essentially, the documentary painted this whole group of people and the leader as some sort of like horrible cult, right? And whether they are or are not, I wouldn't know because I was never part of what they did. I don't know what that organization actually did. I only have the content that was fed to me.
Yeah.
So what I did after I watched this, I was observing the community, people. I would hear people saying all these horrible things and, oh, I can't believe people fell for that cult and did this, that, and the third. And I'm like, well, you guys are falling for all the other cults. So the cult of society, I mean, look at you, right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing. And that isn't to poke fun at people. It's just to say, like, look in the mirror.
Yep.
When you say something negative or judgmental about something that you yourself have never experienced or have no idea about, except for the indoctrinative, content that was fed to you, maybe you should hold off on and reserve your energy for something that serves self. So anyways, where I want to go with this is after I was done consuming it myself, hearing how everyone felt about it, I always return back to the basic quote, everything that's popular is wrong.
Yep.
So then I went out of my way to listen to Osho's lectures, and everything he was saying resonated with me on like the highest level possible. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, there is so much more that we could gain out of life if we just became our own consumer. Meaning, if you're gonna consume, don't consume based off the judgment and the preconceived notions that other people feed to you. If someone talks shit about Logan or Jordan, go listen to them first before you quickly just paint this like kind of category to put them in. And I feel like the more and more I practice that firsthand, I'm able to extrapolate the wisdom from all the people. I even do this in my normal life. If I see a bunch of people, regular people who have almost no influential power over the world, if they do something that does not resonate with me, it is a mirror for me to say, well, that's how I'm not going to live my life. That's how I'm not going to behave. You know, it's not like I'm sitting there calling them names and judging them. I'm just analyzing them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is a reflection. Like, so it's just mind blowing because I've spoken to a lot of people about this specific documentary, and like 98% of them always say bad things. And then I am like, well, have you ever listened to the leader speak ever besides what was in that documentary? And they're like, no. And I'm like, so how are you able to create such a deep and emotional outlook onto another being that you've never met, you've never spoke to, and you've never even listened to?
That's because, yeah, I get in these conversations I have about, oh, well, they quote from the Bible, and I'm like, you ever read the Upanishads or the ancient texts of Shinto, or you ever read any of that kind of stuff? No, I don't. I don't need to. I don't need to read that. Yeah, because I got the Bible, and that's all I got to read. That's all I know.
That reminds me of Sadguru, who he came out and said that he's never read the Bhagavad Gita. He's never read the Gitas. He's like pretty much never. I don't think he's studied anything actually. And he's like come out and admitted it on like television. And you know, he's one of the most influential like modern day gurus for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But take a lecture from Sadguru and then take a lecture from Osho. And I would love to hear how people feel the differences.
Oh yeah, major differences. I mean, dude, his I'm not even going to try to pronounce his full Indian name, Osho's.
Yeah, I think it's his name was he was just calling himself the Bhagwan, which is like I believe it's a title.
Oh, okay.
But I forgot his real
Rajneesh, I think. Rajneesh.
Yeah. So he was calling the people the Rajneeshi.
Rajneesh, yeah.
And there was some other word they were calling, but this is essentially a title that's carried by followers of a guru. I was just super fascinated listening to the lectures, and some of the most profound quotes that I ever find are Osho quotes. Like I think I found one the other day that I'll quickly pull up. It'll probably take me like a second, but okay, yeah, I found it. He said, "No intelligent person is interested in dominating others. His first interest is to know himself."
Yeah, that's bomb right there.
So like, I just like, and I think everyone should try this. I just made that the background of my phone for like a week. Like every time I open up the black box, the first thing I see is that quote.
Yep.
And it just reminds me over and over again, like, this isn't about division. Like, we're here as high vibrational beings to be magnetized to each other, to explore this reality through our creativity and build, you know, and maybe in that process, deconstruct the parasitic nature of the current environment.
Yep. Absolutely. You know, just looking at his birthday and his death day says it all for me, because he died on January 19th, 1990. And listen to all when you break the numbers down, the code, I think the code just rewards you, but I think also I believe in predestination, but that's for a different story. But January 19th, 1990, it's 1191990. That's when he died.
It's amazing.
Yeah. That's when he died, January 19th, which is tied to the battery. But yeah, the guy's a genius. I mean, he did his job pretty damn well.
Yeah, and you know, when you are a leader of a big group of people, you're an energy power plant. You are now like we're talking about, he is like the pyramids of Giza in a body. Okay? So when you actually have this much power, like, I mean, he went on a silent thing for like multiple years, and he still maintained, he probably grew in his power energetically, I'm speaking. Because when you go into silence and you have that, you know, legacy already, all these books, all of this teaching, all of this following, you know, it makes you even more of a a deity in a sense to these people. And
Yeah.
if you're living in the flesh and you're in their space, you know. So the way I feel about this now is like, look at the amount of energy that people give to somebody like LeBron James or like Will Smith. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They maintain their own individual cults, you know, the cult of Hollywood or the cult of popular comedy or whatever it is. Like, look at a president, they're the cult of politics and government. So it's just funny to me though, when you study these quote unquote cults of the 70s and the 80s, you see something, you see a pattern. The pattern is the teacher is quite enlightened and the peoples are typically living outside of the system.
Mm-hmm.
Especially this group of people. They had their own airport strip. They had their own, you know, they were fully armed. They had farmers, architects, people that were high level lawyers. They had the entire system figured out within their small community, right? Now, I mean, one of the things that is a big red flag with quote unquote cults is when the leadership is taking advantage of people, either financially, sexually, you know, brainwashing them, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not, again, because I have yet to be part of this experience. I didn't go to this place during the time it was existing. I don't know what was going on. But when you listen to the teachings of the individual, you're able to extrapolate that wisdom. And that's where like the vitality and where the utility is behind these things.
Mm-hmm.
But if we had today this group of people doing what they were doing all over the world, we wouldn't have a fucking government working. It would stop being able to work. If everyone just grew their own food and created their own, you know, like bartering systems and developed their own, you know, logistic, how could a government ever? So to disrespect such peoples, regardless of the darkness that may surround them, I think is getting us off of our path. You know, like there needs to eventually be a time and place where people come together to deconstruct the parasitic system that's working so well. Otherwise, we're just talking about it and we're not doing anything.
Yeah, but I think people's concepts or ideas about changing things is they must go to war and fight back with this resistance.
Right.
And I think that's personally that's where think people are being challenged, because again, if you observed your life, like when I go work with somebody, a friend or a client, I'm looking at everything they're doing, all their habits, all their daily activities, what they're doing, what they're not doing, and as far as like, is it going to give me life? Is it going to take life from me? Mm. And when it comes to social media and your influence and the little black box in your cell phone and the computer and all of these things, how much time do you spend on that? And then how much are you being influenced? How much time do you spend scrolling through your social media feed or scrolling through YouTube videos? YouTube's been amazing, but obviously there's a lot of influence going on there, right? And how much time personally, any of you listening out there, how much time do you spend with your daily habits that you get caught up in 24/365? I mean, that's what we all do that. But if you just stop paying attention to the static on the world stage and took that time, like let's just say you observe your life and like, damn, I spend 2 hours a day on the computer, like not working, but like just messing around, reading, being influenced,
consuming.
Or I'm chatting with people about this. I'm on the cell phone, and you know, or I'm on a lot of people Instagram looking at pictures, and you know, if you took that 2 hours and you said, okay, here's your 2 hours back, what are you going to do with it today? Let's do something with this 2 hours. And you actually sat down consciously and picked an idea or a concept to put that 2 hours into that was going to help humanity, or at least level yourself up, make your consciousness go up, then everything outside your world would start to melt away a little bit, and you'd start to create the ripple. And if everybody did that, then the empires that are the major influencers on the world stage would no longer have any energy, because everybody would have taken their 2 hours back and put it into their own lives. And that's how you change a culture. That's how you change a world, an economy, a business, et cetera, et cetera. That's just how my take on it.
Yeah. And I believe what you're saying, because if you just look at what 2 hours every day for an entire year adds up to, it's 730 hours, which if you divide that by 24, that means you're getting 30 days. That's a full calendar month that you're taking. So if you just looked at reality through that lens of being able to take 2 hours every single day to serve yourself and to develop whatever it is that you're passionate or have a skill or are um in love with, like something that actually brings you joy and a sense of release and balance,
Yep.
that right there, you think about how much we could accomplish if we just redirected that energy. So first and foremost, people just need to understand that the leaders on the world stage are in such small numbers. They are like less than 0.0001% of the global population, yet they control the entirety. So the way they pull this off is not through physical force or forcing you or mandating. They do it through allowing you, but they're in a consistent experiment of figuring out where your energy is most likely to go so that they can harness it.
Yeah, that's exactly what they do. And they do it. I mean, it's all about marketing. Really, it comes down to marketing. How good is your marketing? Businesses come and go all the time because there's one thing they probably lack in: marketing. Now, if you got a great tasting food and you don't make it, it's your marketing that will probably be the cause of that. So all of it is marketing. Marketing is just influence, and that's what's control. That's what runs the majority of the population. It's just influence. You're being influenced, and you're believing and adopting the beliefs that they're giving you. And I think that these organizations, these archetypes, as I like to call them, they feed you the lower chakra energy, where satiation and sex and feeling good is all hanging out.
Yeah.
And when they get you there, you become and resonate that energy. And it's very challenging then to look outside that and take a look at and that's primal down there, right? That's your primal energy. And when they got you hooked on your primal and you're feeding that dragon, well, the Kundalini can't rise up to go to the spiritual realm, which is where the third eye rides. And that's where you'll find like, well, wait a minute, there's two sides here.
Mm-hmm.
And then where are you going to influence yourself? And then you realize when you get to these higher realms that, balance is the key. If you just look at the blood in the body, the blood is 7.3, 7.4. It's just over 7, and 7 being the middle path, 7
like
being
slightly alkaline.
Slightly love. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Slightly love wins the game, because if you can die being too alkaline.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the blood's 7. Just go by what the body says. 7.3, 7.4, and that's tied to feed the wolf and all these things, neodymium and the tungsten and wolfram and all these layers in alchemy, king tantalum and the element tantalum. So you just look at the blood and then you observe it through the alchemical elements, and you'll start to get a better grasp of how this reality works, because it's all tied up into the, I think the alchemy and the board, that's the motherboard, right? The periodic table is the motherboard.
Yeah, it's so well put together. I was, thinking while you were saying that you should really just become your own influencer.
That's what
like if you're obsessed with a famous musician or or even someone who's not famous, whatever it is, like it doesn't really matter. Just become your own influencer, become your own king, become your own queen, become your own version of whatever it is, that you used to give energy to. Just revert that back to self. Like think of the Ouroboros. You're the snake, you're the serpent eating its own tail. Actually, I saw an incredible piece of art that was the dragon eating its own tail interwoven with a swan. And it looked like the 8, right? And that piece of art was beautiful because that unity is something to absolutely talk about. If you're comfortable with self, sometimes you're still unbalanced because you're seeking partnership. There is something interesting about this reality where there's a loneliness. There could be a conscious loneliness, a spiritual loneliness, whatever it is. And the apex predator knows that the easiest way to keep you infinitely influenced is to have you never focus on self and to always be seeking, that savior complex, that fulfillment from them, rather than you being able to fill up your own glass of water. They're the one walking around with the water pitcher filling you up. So if you're caught up in that, if you're going to continuously be waiting to have someone else fill your cup, you're always going to be depressed. You're always going to be, empty. And that emptiness could be fulfilled by you. But the way to do it is you need to, like what Logan just said moments ago, when you're in those lower chakras, when you're down there, that aggression is not really fulfilling you. It's a short-lived answer. It's like when you do heroin, you're not solving any problems. Like, yes, you're solving a 5-second high, but then you'll just keep chasing that, and chasing that. When you want to lose weight, sure, you could cut down your calories to 1,000 a day, but if you're a man and you're going to be, you'll start losing some weight, but you'll also lose lean muscle tissue. You'll start to maybe harm your organs. Your body will start to decompose slowly from the process of perpetually doing that. And you're going to see your body always seeks equilibrium. So if your body is always seeking that equilibrium, don't you think your mind will? Don't you think your sexual desire will, or your spiritual, whatever, wherever it is that you're imbalanced, it's always going to come to that central point. So it's really interesting to think about this whole becoming your own influencer thing, because it seems so simple to say, but to practice it is an art form.
Totally. It is an art form. Very well said. And I think I'm totally on board. As you know, I resonate with this about the whole being the influencer and getting out there and creating, your own kind of influence. As simple as that is, and I love this. I love the meme: to change your life, you have to change your life. And it's very simple, but it's very effective, right? It's very effective. And there's a lot of you out there listening right now that want to change your life and you don't like where you're at. So, how do you fast track that? And everybody, most people listening, they're going to want to fast track it. How do I get there the quickest? Because everybody out there probably is into the whole scratch ticket, life. And that is like, you scratch the ticket and here, hey, I won, give me my money.
Oh, so dude, I would know more than anyone because I'm in crypto.
Yeah.
I'm in crypto investing, and everyone just wants to show up when it's like the most sexy time, and that's the worst time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like everyone just wants to it's like going on a date with somebody and expecting it all to for you to be married by tomorrow. If you loved yourself, if you were aware of the process and you loved the process, you wouldn't be so salivating over the outcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's everything in life. Like, the path to your outcome relies in how okay you are with the process, because otherwise, you could lose all that weight, or you could get the girl of your dreams, or you could, bench press 200 pounds, like whatever it is that you're trying to do. But there's a process to get there, and you need to fall in love with that process. You need to allow that process to unfold.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel the best way to do that is to figure out what the hell you're doing here. What's your owner's manual? You got an owner's manual in your glove box of your car, those of you that own a car. And that's what you would go to if your car breaks down, you may go in the glove box and look at that owner's manual. So the same situation runs with human beings. What's your owner's manual? And a lot of our owner manuals are heavily written by the influence that is, tantalizing our senses. So it's time to take it back for you, ladies and gentlemen, especially if you're a decoder. You're realizing as a decoder, you're seeing that this code that's working has a very specific nature to it. And it delivers patterns. And you're going to start to see those patterns. And, just like a coder or an HTML coder for a computer, for a computer programmer, software writer, there's specific code that they have to write in order for these things to work. And if they don't write them the specific ways, that's where you get the glitches, and then you need to do the upgrades and you have to fix things. But once an operating system is starting to run efficiently, such as the one that you're using on your phone right now, or YouTube's operating system, or Zoom that we're using right now, big shout out to Zoom, right? Without Zoom, we wouldn't be doing this podcast. But these things, all these things have operating systems, and you have an operating system. So really, what is your operating system? Those of you that are listening to this and resonating with this. And then, is your operating system being influenced by other operating systems, Or are you really being the influencer of the operating systems out there? I like to be the influencer, right, Jordan? I mean, we're all being influenced, but I like being an influencer. It's fun.
Yeah, I mean, my process was first waking up to what is going on here, which is that I can do whatever I can through the reactions, the opportunities that I receive. And if I continue to react perpetually through a love-based frequency, as opposed to giving it friction, as opposed to getting upset, as opposed to blaming, the path towards those solutions actually arrive, as
Yeah.
opposed to just being caught up in my quote unquote problems. And once you unlock that key, you look back and you say, I could have saved myself so much fucking energy and time. And to me, that was the path towards figuring out my quote unquote owner's manual. You know, like through there, that was where things started showing up in my reality at a speed that were, you know, it was an overload almost. You know, even my connection with you. When I started connecting with you, you had a whole protocol for your decoding that I could barely understand at all, you know? And now that I'm diving deeper and deeper into my decoding journey, I feel like, you know, it was all divine timing. It made so much sense for me to know what I have available to me and all the tools that keep showing up. So, you know, huge shout out to you. And I always consistently bring you up in every piece of work that I do almost, because there's always something there that was influential that you shared in your work or you shared with me privately. So
Thanks, man.
it's a beautiful thing when we come together with each other.
Yeah.
And I used to have a little bit of hope that the quote unquote decoding community would join forces, but I almost feel more as the months go by that that type of what's the word? I used to want it to be, and now I'm letting go of it because I see that there's there's so much division in every specialized talent, let's just say. And the ones who are here to be the king of the whole domain, their energy is not as attractive to me as I once thought. So I'm doing my thing now, let's just say. I'm happy with whatever connections I've made, but I'm no longer seeking to bring unity to any communities that aren't willing to, you know, dance. Instead, we're like fencing each other or something. And that energy for me is just I can't anymore. I'm like fully based in love, and all that Mars God of War shit is it's not in my hand anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm running another parallel with you there because that's how I'm been rolling as well. I have no problem deleting people. I have no problem blocking people. I just, that's not even a matter of like, oh, freedom of speech is like, no, if you're going to be a ding dong, I don't even, why would I even want to have that energy attached to me? That's stupid. That's like cancer in my body. You're just going to leave it there and just hang out with it because, it's free to be there. No, it's bringing me down. So you got to go.
Yeah, in order to grow and to progress into your best self, you have to probably say no a lot more than you say yes.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's sometimes you got to look in the mirror and you have to ask yourself, like, you have to take an inventory and be like, are these people that are in my life, whether they're digital or whether they're physical, like, are these individuals here to perpetuate the growth of all, or are we constricted, are we contracting, you know? And sometimes it's better to say no. Like, I've said this a bunch of times in live streams. I have like 30 people saved in my phone.
mm,
You know, like I don't really keep in touch with too many people because I'm on my own path. You
yep.
know, like I'm doing my own thing. And when I started tapping into that more and more, it alleviated a lot of time for me to be able to make amazing art. You know,
Yeah.
before I was always worried like about what other people thought, or like, do they like the music I'm making, or do they like the video I put out? But like, I'm over that now, you know, and that's brought me so much bliss to just not care about external judgment. Like I actually think this is a huge takeaway for everyone. You're your own boss. Like, you're your own final enemy. You're your own final boss. Like in a video game,
Yep.
you're beating all these characters, like, you know, level by level. But when you get to the final boss, like, that's you.
That's you. Yep. That's
That's you. And you need to know how to like how to react. But instead of getting through all those levels and beating all those smaller bosses, and now you made it to the end or it's ready for you to go against yourself, just walk up to that person and hug them, and the game's over.
Yep. That's
There's
the way to win it.
Yeah, like, and I think they showed us that very beautifully in the Matrix movies. Like, it took you 3 movies to get there, but that's beautiful. Like the process of meeting Smith and learning the strengths that Neo had over Smith movie by movie until you get to the third one, and he just found out that, like, I can't keep fighting you, man, because you're gonna keep getting up. You're gonna keep doing this over and over again. Like, we could go all day.
Yep.
And the moment that he figured out, like, that this isn't a fight to begin with, this wasn't even worth fighting, then Smith just fucking explodes.
Yeah. 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 Those are profound series. But yeah, absolutely. I think the final boss, I agree with you wholeheartedly that it's your game. I have you seen Tron Legacy? Have you seen the Disney revision of Tron?
No.
Okay. So there's have you know the movie Tron though, right? 1982.
I actually don't.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. But I would love to know about it.
Yeah, well, it's basically about a guy who creates a game and then he's able to download himself into the game. And he's on the board. And so the remake of it has Jeff Bridges in it as this guy named Kevin Flynn, and he basically, they remade it, and he gets stuck in the game, can't get out. So his son goes down there, and the game actually the game is artificial intelligence, and it's now alive. And so when his son comes down there, he wants to get him out of there, and there's a portal in there to get out. You got to get to the portal. But the biggest gem drop in that movie was when his son Sam wants to get to the portal, and it's a trick. And he says that the way to win the game is not to play the game.
Yeah. Not
to play it. Yeah. That's the only way to win the game. And there's so much more to it. So if you're a fan, if you haven't seen Tron Legacy, Disney, so many nuggets in there, but you can't help but play the game, ladies and gentlemen. So it's a contradiction, but the meaning of it was, don't play that game. Don't play that game. Play your game. Don't play that game.
Yeah, that's a mind fuck, man. Like
It
most
is.
people, yeah, like most people, that was revealed to me actually. What you just explained, that was revealed to me in like my second time doing mushrooms. Like it was a very, very similar kind of thing, So yeah, for sure. There's times where you're gonna be excited to try something in life, and whatever that might be, whether that is something like psychedelics or anything like that, and you're going to go into it with everyone's like opinions and stories. And I was really lucky because when I went into taking mushrooms, I didn't actually have anyone to explain to me how it was. Like I didn't even know how much to take. So I just like, it was like if somebody was like, hey, you want to come meet me in Uzbekistan? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Like who the fuck knows what's there? Like the only way you would know is if you started Googling it. You tell people you want to meet in New York, they already have like 1,000 ideas on their mind, right?
Right.
So yeah, when I went through that journey, it was really incredible because I had nothing that influenced me beforehand. I got to just like ride the wave.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was really amazing because I was already there in a lot of senses, had a lot of, I guess, what we'll call base knowledge in this matrix, but that showed me that this was a game. And I was playing the game like the most aggressive, like worrywart.
Yeah.
And that worry, that like always wondering about tomorrow, will I be successful? Will my business make money? Like all of that. I was so caught up in that. And the more and more I remember that time, it reflects back to me. That's why I guess for people like us, when we get together and we talk about these ideas, we've been there. So the discussion of it is amazing because people can actually prevent their mistakes now by learning from the ones who walked the path before them.
So true.
So there's something to be said about that. I was talking about this today actually because I just put out one of my podcasts over on Patreon, and I was talking about investing and how we have so much literature over 100 years of how to invest. And you could actually go out of your way to learn how to invest, like from other people's mistakes. Don't listen to everyone's successes. The success is bullshit. That's on you. Learn people's mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what has value. Like when you when you're driving a car, your goal is to go from point A to point B. You're ideally with no errors, right? When you're flying a plane, you're trying to take the plane off the ground through the sky and land carefully. Like you want to pay attention to all the mistakes that could happen, because like you can make one fuck up in your life and it'll be like crashing the plane. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you could think you're doing all the right things, making all the money, being with all the great people, and then you take a pill at one party and then now you have a drug addiction. Like that's how life can treat you.
Yeah.
Like it'll fuck you up like that. Like it'll take you on that one little like where it reverts you, and you think you're doing all the right things because you're focused on everyone else doing the quote unquote right things. And I'm lucky enough that I've actually had really intense shit happen when I was younger, and like just a past to look back on. And I learned so much through all of everyone else's mistakes in my life, and it helped me kind of draw out this path for moving forward. And I don't know why I was coded that way, like because a lot of people that I meet, they're not able to do that. You know, they're 30, 40, 50 years old and they're still complaining about something that happened when they were 7.
People like living in the past.
Yeah. And I was lucky enough, I guess I could call this luck, but I assume it's just part of my code. I was able to move on quicker from the blame game, you know. Mm-hmm. And I've helped a lot of people with this throughout having this channel, to look back at your trauma, look back at yesterday, and just accept it for what it is. Like fall in love with your traumas, allow them. And once you allow them, like the water will go from ice to flowing again. But like we're keeping icebergs in our in our past,
floating around. You
know. And it's like, have you ever saw an iceberg chip away off the, like it could create tidal waves. True.
I see people that, and I think we're all guilty of this. When you get into a relationship, an intimate partnership with somebody, and then that you break that off, sometimes there's some scorning that goes on, scarring, bruising, what have you. And there's no healing from that. And so then you get into another relationship and you didn't heal from the last one. And then you carry that into the new one. Imagine the scenario of you showing up to move in with your new partner. And when you come to the door to bring your luggage in, there's your ex standing behind you with their luggage. You're like, hey, we're here. We're about ready to move in. And it's not just you that's moving in, it's you and your ex, because you're still attached to your ex. And these are concepts based on your past. So, that's why the word presence is the gift, because the gift is the presence. Mm-hmm. That's the present moment. So if you just get out of the past and release these things, which, when I do my readings, I go into great detail with a lot of Chiron, because Chiron is the spiritual wound, supposedly, that astrology says that we're born with. And I find that these are attached to our childhood. Mm-hmm. A lot of them, experiences that happened when you were a kid. And you're still living like a child right now, because you're still allowing the circumstances and situations and experiences that happened when you were a kid still lead you as an adult, and you're still behaving like that child. And so you got to observe them instead of sweeping them under the rug, because that's the easiest thing to do, because then they don't have to be observed. And then, they're going to come out again, but you don't have to pay attention to them and live like a child, which is not a bad thing, right? But living like a child, sometimes you're not going to make the best decision as an adult would. So, or the most better, I don't know how we want to word that, but go ahead, Jordan.
No, I think so. It's like the child wants to be free. It wants to like go through the process of experiences. But I think parents are carrying the trauma of their the way they were treated by their
Most
parents.
definitely.
And it's multi-generational. So, that's a huge thing for people out there that are parents. If you had something happen to you through your parents or your friends' or whatever was going on in the past, like you're never going to solve your trauma by enacting that traumatizing behavior onto your child or someone else's. But like for those people out there that are learning about what's going on in the world stage, the reason why there's so much darkness when it comes to things like pedophilia and all that is because of that. It's
Yeah.
because they were taken advantage of as a kid, and now that's the game they want to play moving forward.
Yep.
And it's vile and heinous, but it is what it is. And if we were better at being able to like deal with that trauma instead of dealing with it by acting on it with some other person or self-inflicting harm on ourselves, then we would be able to overcome one of the darkest parts of all of our realities. And I think first of all, we're all here because a man and a woman got together and had sex, right?
Yep.
Then they made us. Now, whether they were there through your upbringing, maybe you could be an orphan, like whatever the scenario is, right? But given the common circumstances, perhaps still you're influenced by other kids around you. You go to school or you're whatever. Now those kids have parents, and you're being taught by teachers, and these teachers are like looking after you essentially like their children. And it's just a systemic, like, it's a cyclical thing where everyone is just doing their part and nobody really wants to play their role when they're taking on such a serious task like being a parent. Like I know so many people that are quote unquote parents, and they're going to the park with their kids and they're just sitting there on fucking their phone the whole time while the kids are playing.
Yeah.
Like my dad wasn't that awesome. Like he fucked up with a lot of shit, but like when I was growing up, like we would play baseball together and football and stuff. And like now I walk around and it's like because of the invention of cell phones alone, I've seen a lot of parents they don't want to take on that task of being a parent. And what does that even mean to be a parent? You know what I'm saying? People barely know how to be happy or balanced. So imagine that, right? When you have almost everyone is confused and now they're raising children.
Yeah.
So it's deep, it takes a lot for people to be to allow their kids to expose their potentials whilst protecting them, whilst also letting them be analytical and question everything and be open-minded and have that freedom of mind like they're brought here with.
Yeah. And since life is cyclical, as you said, I think, we're in this, darker age. And if you just compare that to somebody who's got cancer, go back to when they never had cancer. If you just take the human being experience when you're a baby and you're born into this world, if you're born with no blemishes, that baby's pure. Right. And it has to be influenced. And then it gets influenced by the love and fear emotions and all the other things under the sun that go with that. Mm-hmm. Then you fast forward to when it's almost ready to die and maybe it's filled with cancer. But that cancer is not always, there's exceptions, but that cancer perhaps was developed by being influenced by this reality. And so the reality works the same way. It starts off beautiful and unblemished, and then as it moves through time is what decays everything, which is why I say, the whole concept of Satan is time, because that's what time, give anything time. There's no such thing as a 5-star rating. You may keep one for a little bit of time, but over time that will be kicked off the hill because somebody won't like it. And that's what time does. Time is the great decayer of life. And that's what's going to bring you to your knees at one point, and then you'll have to start the cycle over again if that's what we do. But that's how this reality works, I feel, from start to finish. We've had this before, governments, and 1776, the United States of America branched off supposedly and created their own colonies, and then the birth of the United States of America. And besides the esoteric and the occult meanings of it, it was built on the grounds of honesty and integrity and upholding the Constitution and being sound men of sound mind. And if you compare 1776 and the way the government was run back then, and you compare it to the government of 2022, they would probably be in a state of shell shock of those in 1776. Like, really? That's where you're at? Yeah, because we're at a stage where this empire has cancer. It's in the dark cycle. time has gotten to the governments and states, and so therefore there needs to be a cleansing.
Yeah. No, you put it so in such a true sense. It's like masticized into like other organs, and now it's like complete failure.
Complete failure.
Like the organism itself is failing. One of the things this makes me think about is how in nature, the things where time are not necessarily against it for an extended cycle are things that are burrowed into the ground, like trees, for instance.
Uh-huh.
When you're out of the ground, your decay cycle speeds up dramatically. Yep. As a sentient being, very short time span. Now, people could argue esoterically, like there used to be beings that were 400 years old, whatever. That's not the case today. So what we're working with today is like we look around, and the only things that really make it the longest, where they stay where they are day after day after day, they will surpass the human lifespan, are things that are actually burrowed into the ground, like trees. And now just being able to realize that the reason perhaps the sustainability is there, and regardless of the, you know, the agricultural concept or whatever, it's that there's a mini cycle happening all the time where it's relieving the buildup. So perhaps the apple tree, it has the apples that it creates, it has leaves, and then we enter the fall time, the leaves fall, the winter comes, and this process of the tree being okay with letting go of its leaves. If a human being were to practice this process, or just think about this for a second, because I think humans are beings that never want to let go of our leaves. We will fight tooth and nail to be right, to win arguments, to not die. We will do everything to not die. If you told a human being, take 6 vaccines, all these antibiotics, like eat this food, they will listen if you sold them on the fear that they could die if they didn't. And that has worked over and over and over again. And this has perpetuated through, again, the influence of fear. So I'm just so interested in how we self-age ourselves just by being so caught up in this chasing of our own mortality. We want so badly to never leave, yet we're completely like, you know, we're okay with wasting the day to day. We're okay with wasting every moment of our life. But then when the mortality is on the horizon, we will fight tooth and nail to keep that. So a great example would be, look at the average person before COVID happened. The C word, sorry. Before the C word happened, the average person was eating the same average foods, consuming the same average, you know, media. They were watching the news, eating McDonald's, you know, never working out, barely leaving their house. And then now you tell that individual that they can just get a vaccine, it's going to cure them, and that'll be the solution. And they believe that. And they're still day by day eating McDonald's, not taking care of themselves, not really doing any changes. They just have this miracle shot. And if you think about how interesting that is, their micro decisions that add up to be way more profound are disregarded, but then they believe that this behavior of taking a miracle pill or a vaccine would somehow solve everything for them. But then they never change the thing that got them sickly and obese and, you know, in this cyclical, mundane lifestyle to begin with. So it just goes to show you, like, we will fight tooth and nail for the idea of the end of our life, but we will never make those small changes to perpetuate a healthy life. And this is the average individual. So, I mean, just if you were to bring it back to the 1776 concept and look at today, you know, wow. One of the big differences perhaps is right now we've overachieved any need for actually surviving. We are so comfortable in the lack of needing to facilitate survival at all. You know, like the average person, if they want the house to be hot when it's the winter, they just click a couple buttons and now they're warm. But people in 1776, it was a much different reality. So when you are struggling or uncomfortable, it is much, much, much harder to completely put the species under a mass hypnosis. But when you are very easy, you know, when you have everything externalized and all avenues of your reality are easy for you, and there's no struggle in life, there's no uncomfortability necessarily, well, there you go. You know, and I think there's a obvious push right now towards socialism and getting everything controlled by a globalist regime, so
Yeah.
that people are so reliant on the system. And when it's time for them to pull the plug on whatever sovereignty is left, it'll be so easy to control because they control the whole food system, the money, the energy, every aspect of our reality. So it's not to get dark necessarily, but like, I believe that the foundation of this whole system, they were already aware of how it would end. These people that design the system are not idiots. They know. They know how it all goes. The time clock on it, how long it takes, that might be available for some sort of debate. But given the Pluto's return that happened in 1776 in the United States versus the Pluto's return that just happened in February, and we see the way the world's going and how the world stage has been unfolding since the month of February, perhaps they did know the time clock. And that's where things get even more interesting.
Wow, a lot of jam-packed, gem-filled information right there, my friend. Woo! That was some good stuff, man. Always get some great truth bombs in the way you perceive this reality.
Well, I would assume, if they have a Bible they could write or any of the scriptures, the Talmud, Kabbalah, whatever it is that you're focused on, well, wouldn't that have been because they were students of the cyclical nature of our reality?
Yeah.
So they were just writing down what they've experienced in the past and leaving a guidebook.
Yep. Yep. Make no mistake about that.
So I see it just unfolding at the speed that's necessary. And we are given the opportunity. We are given so many years and opportunities as a people to just figure that out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's very profound what you said about everything being below ground and not aging the same way as everything above ground and moving through time. And yeah, I mean, everything above the ground has to be subjected to the elements of the external, which is the sun, the wind, the rain, which make things decay faster. But everything underground is not subjected to that, or at least in the soil. I mean, that's where seeds mostly germinate with the nitrogen and all these to go back into the periodic table again. What makes the seed germinate? But anyway, I think that is pretty profound, knowing that as we move through time on the surface of this planet, we decay a certain way. But if you take something and you go below the surface and you're not subjected to the external outside sources of life itself, then it completely puts a change in the way things decay.
If it reminds me a lot, just like studying whenever I do, how this, like, the as above, so below, as within, so without, like there's a multi-dimensional facet to what's going on here. And the biggest change in my reality that helped was like knowing how to heal your body, like how to heal yourself.
Yeah.
When you learn how to heal yourself and you're not trying to find some doctor, and you're living every day with the solution to how to figure out how to cure your problems, whether that be the mental or the physical, that right there makes you a very, you're like a sorcerer.
Yeah, for sure.
Once you learn how to cure yourself, like I remember when I did my first extended dry fast, I did like a 3-day dry fast. And I was just so fucking happy, bro. Like nothing mattered to me. Like people were talking about like Donald Trump and gas prices. And I was just like, I couldn't even hear it. It was like my body was turning their words. Like my ears were turning their words into like sim language. Like, that game, The Sims.
Of course.
That's how they felt to me. I was like, you guys are NPCs. Like at day 3 of the dry fast, like everyone in my reality became an NPC. Like, and no disrespect, this isn't to make fun of anyone. It was just like, I became so okay with that feeling, like the nakedness, the not needing to consume, to know that I could go so long without consuming anything. That power, the power to do such a thing. And then the body that it creates and the mentality, the sharpness of mind, and just, and it was free. I didn't pay a single I didn't pay a dime. So I was thinking about how like doing the least is actually the cure. You want to clear your mental state? Well, then get rid of your thoughts.
Yep.
Like,
Just, yeah, it's very simple. Exactly.
there's just
Simple is where
fasting
it's
can be
at.
done in so many ways.
That's right. Simple. It's very easy to clean your life up, ladies and gentlemen. If you're resonating with what Jordan's saying, analyze it for a few days. Check out what your habits are. What are you eating? What do you feel? I mean, I always give the analogy personally myself when I'm working with people, and said it on my podcast so many times. It's like when you buy a new car, and you drive it off the lot, you're not worried about it breaking down. You're not the least bit concerned about that. But if you go and if you don't have the budget to buy a new car and you got to buy a used car and you're like on a really tight budget and you're shopping for a used car, one of the first criterias of buying the used car is how many miles does it have on it? Because if it has 150,000 miles on it and you're buying it, you may be thinking, well, shit, I don't know if I can make this road trip across the United States. I may be a little bit worried, right? So it's the same thing with your body right now in its current state of health. How many miles you got on your body? It's not even a matter of, you could break it down so many different philosophical ways. Like, well, I'm 49, like I'm 49. I have 49 years on this body. Every time you eat, it's like starting the motor. The digestion has to move. And that energy is going to cause decay.
Yeah.
But
I
it
mean,
does.
it's literally called digestion.
Digestion, die, yeah. The gestion of dying. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like, because everything we've been told is in opposites. Like, the
Yeah.
more you eat, the less you live.
That's right. That's right. So these are profound layers that I would encourage all of you that are listening to this podcast with Jordan and myself to take into consideration. That, if you really want to take your life to the next level, become a minimalist, as best as you can. Get rid of a lot of the things that you're not using anymore. One of the great examples of that, I'm a huge Bob Proctor fan, and Bob Proctor, one of the greatest minds ever, just passed recently, said that, you ladies, you have a closet full of clothes, go in the closet and then whatever you haven't worn in the past 6 months, get rid of it. Clear the space out. Go get rid of it.
So
Go
many
give it to
people
somebody.
going through financial stuff, man. And I'm like, the first thing I say to them is, how much stuff do you have?
Yeah, how much stuff you got? Get rid of
Like,
it.
I'll talk to people and they're like, I'm trying to do this, that, and this with my portfolio, with my savings, with my 401k, but like I'm struggling for money. And it's like, besides the business conversation and generating cash flow, it's like, you own 4 cars? The fuck are you doing with 4 cars?
Yeah.
You own 3 houses. It's like, you have 1 body.
Yeah.
You own 2 watches, but there's only 1 time.
Yeah.
So it's like, people are just compulsive. But this is, again, Logan, this isn't this is the process of someone not being self-fulfilled.
Right.
So they get fulfillment through the materialism of the experience.
That's right.
And yeah, so I mean, it's incredible once you become a master of how to use your currency.
Yep.
Not just the currency of emotion, the currency of attention, the currency of love, the currency of money. It's all kind of the same, though. There's no real difference between the ability to focus on how to utilize manifestation, whether it be through money or be through love or be through achieving your whatever dream you have.
Yep. That's right. The simpler you can get your life, the better off you're going to be, especially those of you that are sick. If your health is not grade A, well, what are you doing on the daily to make that improvement? And simple is better. Food, especially eating food, go to very simple ways to eat, and you'll turn your health around.
Yeah, we're the only species that, first of all, cooks our food. Secondly, that eats different foods in one sitting. Just like, people just need to pay attention. Because I like nutrition and consumption is like one of the things that I specialized in before I started doing crypto and this YouTube thing. And like, that people lack common sense, and I believe in today's day and age, it's not that we're lazy, it's that we have too much information. So the process of like, know thyself, like, know not only about you, but about your species. Compare your species to every other species. Like, you don't see a wolf eating like bananas, fried rice, and then killing a cheetah. Like, you know, we have a digestive system that is matching what we're supposed to consume. And like, it's not about debating about the specifics. It's moreover that just analyze why we are the only animal out there that develops cancers and diabetes and all these food related illnesses. The pancreas on an elephant doesn't just stop working out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
You eat yourself to your pancreas no longer wanting to work excessively for you damaging it every day.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's just very basic stuff. Like the more complicated we consume, the more trouble it puts on the digestive tract, which will then create dis-ease.
Yep. That's it, man. Not at ease. You know, going back to the US, I hadn't been back to the US in over a year, and I went back, and you know, it's nice to get back. But I go in the store and I'm just like, I see, especially the grocery stores, the majority of the food, when I walk in, the majority of it is all dead foods. It's all food that takes life from you. That's what it does. It's crazy. And all the stuff, especially the very acute dead foods, are right in the very front when you walk in. They want to kill you the quickest. So they put the food that kills you the fastest right in the very front as you walk through. And the foods that are alive, there's not many of those, which are the fruits and vegetables, you know? So it's really easy to get your health back, ladies and gentlemen. Just go to alive foods. Like just whatever you're putting in your hand that you're going to eat, just ask the question, is this food going to give me life or is it going to take life from me? Pretty simple.
Yeah. Does it have a water in it?
Yeah. Or does it have water? Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Water's
like Oreos do not have water in them.
That's right. Well, there probably maybe was in the process, but they baked it right out of there when they made it a dessert called an Oreo cookie. And I used to be a huge Oreo cookie fan too.
Yeah, I'm being too vague. Yeah, it's funny, like because Oreos are vegan, right?
Of course.
It's like people like, oh, being vegan's like healthy and like all that. Because I'm not a big fan of titles, you know.
Right.
That's not my thing. Like I don't believe in anything. I just am, you know? So like, I love when people try to say that vegan or like vegetarian or carnivore or whatever is a quote unquote healthy diet. And it's like, it just makes me laugh so much because right now is a time where we are inundated with food choice.
Yeah.
When you study populations that have little to no food choice, you also see the least amount of disease. The only time you'll see high disease in a place with a low amount of food choice is when we're away from sunlight. So like the Inuits, they have the worst health out of anyone on this earth. And it's funny that people will use them as a representation of a way to eat and still live. And it's like, well, you need to remember, like, their average life expectancy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true.
You know, like it's very, very basic. You know what I mean? So it's not even, it's when you start getting into some specific title of a diet, you're probably veering off the path of simplicity and minimalism.
Yeah.
Because you can make a vegan, you know, fried chicken cheeseburger if you wanted to.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that was the thing I was missing. I went back to the US and I'm like, you know, Beyond Meat, Impossible Burgers, and protein bars, and I mean, they have protein bars here, but I don't really get them in Mexico. But I mean, the stuff that I just really couldn't get, and then I was subjected to it again. You know, I had it a few times, and you know, to me, it just slows me down because it is processed in a certain way.
It's probably more like when I see some of these,
process,
yeah, especially the meat that's I don't know what's it called, Impossible Meat,
Impossible Meat and Beyond Burger,
like amazing, when you look at that, it's so greasy and slimy, and it's just coated in yeah, man, that stuff is hella processed. So it's like, but you know, I get it. I think everyone's on their own path, and fasting for me was what really got me to stop falling for diets. Like first of all, the word die is in it. And second of all, like when you get into fasting, that was the game changer for me because it's free.
Yep.
It's free. And it's not just about the body. It's about where your mental state goes. Like I've met people that just do fasting because they had very bad depression. And once they started getting into the fasting, then they started getting into meditation, then they started practicing both, and like they're solving, you know, mental traumas that they've been through in the past, and the stories are beautiful. And one of the biggest things perhaps that people need to remember is we all have a different kind of genetics in a sense. So if somebody's eating like total shit and they're younger and they have a six pack, like probably not the best to just take their advice because they look good. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Right now, we live in a day and age where there's a lot of like even Instagram filters can make a 70-year-old woman look like she's like 25 again.
Yeah.
There's an Instagram filter that can make somebody who's obese have a six pack. So I'm just saying this because a lot of people, when they're on their path of learning nutrition and how to consume or how to develop an exercise program, they're solely just looking at the individual who's telling that to them.
Yep.
But we live in a day and age where, like, I mean, I see girls sometimes and I'm like, I don't even know what's real on this girl.
Yeah.
You know, I don't, what is real? Is she like a genetic clone?
Yep.
You know, there's so much lip fillers and just
pumping us in, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all fake. So I'm just like, you guys got to protect yourself because we're in the information age.
Yep.
You need to do stuff that resonates with you on like a conscious level, you know, not just stuff because I've been seeing that it works so well. The guy with the six pack and like, you know, he's just like screaming at you in an advertisement, and people love that shit, man. They fall for it. And the next thing you know, they're buying all these groceries of keto milkshake bars. And it's just like, you're eating candy, bro. You're eating fucking candy that was sold to you by Willy Wonka. That guy with the six pack on the ad is Willy Wonka.
That's
and
so
that golden
funny.
ticket is going to bring you into the casket faster than what you before you watch the ad.
Yeah, well, that's because it goes back to the scratch ticket phenomenon. People want the instant results. They want the overnight sensation. And then you take it to the next level. What are you being influenced by? And then what is it for? What is the influence doing for you? Where is it taking you? And obviously, if you're getting the fillers and this, and I mean, I used to be a gym rat, dude. I mean, I used to be just, you know, I was living my lower chakras for the majority of my life.
Mm. Did you get into it because when you were working out, you felt better, or were you doing it because of vanity, or like
what? Side of, yeah, well, the working out and feeling good and having the endorphins go off when you work out, and you know, that's obviously a big plus. You know, and then being healthy is a big plus. But then there is the mirror. There's the vanity and the mirror, and then you get to a certain look, and when you get to a certain look, you get certain respect. You get a different level of people looking at you.
It's so true. It's so true.
And it feeds your primal. It feeds your lower chakras.
It's so true. Like I remember, like the first time I ever had a six pack, people started listening to me more. And I was just like, this is so stupid. Like I knew it was stupid.
But that's, I mean, you know, but if you want to sell a six pack, you got to have a six pack, right? So if you're if you're the influencer of having a six pack and you're like, okay, well, look at my six pack. You want what I got? Well, this is what I did to get it.
This reminds me of what we were talking. This brings it all full circle. We were talking about marketing. And when you suck, all you have is your marketing.
Yep.
When you're fucking incredible, you don't even need the marketing.
Yep. Well, you're incredible, and this is your marketing, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Oh man, that's so true, because it makes me think a lot how this is how politicians get away with this mass hypnosis. Is like the script that's written for them is designed according to the level of consciousness of the average. So when they're spell casting, you know, it's like feeding them the exact data, and it's coming from the person who looks exactly the role. Have you seen that movie, The Adjustment Bureau?
Of course, 2011, Matt Damon.
Bro, that movie I watched it
boring, dude.
Oh man, we got to talk about that. So I watched that like 2 days ago, and the part where he's like,
nice.
Yeah, I loved it. The part where he was talking about the scuffing of the shoes, I was just like, oh my God, dude, this is fucking awesome. Like he's literally spilling the beans.
Yep.
Like the tie they wear, everything. It's a fucking theatrical show, and people are like, they think they're watching reality, but it's actually Broadway.
Yep. It's all a movie.
And when he first got into like, you know, figuring out what was happening behind the curtain. The guy even said that. He was like, you saw behind the curtain something you weren't supposed to see, right? And he's sitting there and he's like in this discussion with the controller, with the architects or the stewards of our matrix, and he couldn't believe it, but he accepted it super quickly. If you think about it, like within moments, he actually, like, it probably took the guy a day to just accept the fact that this is the reality that's going on. And that's you, that's me, that's everyone who's here listening to this. Like, if you've made it this far, especially into the podcast, then you are Matt Damon in the Adjustment Bureau. Like, you learn that you're in a fucking simulation, and like there's aspects to this reality that you are controlling, and you're breaking the program all the time. Like, they were calling it the plan, right? Like, you're going against the plan all the time, and they can't keep up with that because you're vibing on that frequency. That's like, it's you came to this earth with like antivirus software, you know, and everyone else is like just enjoying the puppet show. So that movie was lit because they exposed so much in it.
Oh, dude, the whole breakdown of that. I mean, for those of you that are fans of this, remember that it is based off of the book called The Adjustment Team. And the comedy in this is the writer. His name is Philip Kindred Dick. That's actually his birth name, I guess.
What, dude?
Yeah, Philip Kindred Dick is his full birth name. So and he's got a lot of other movies besides that. But it's just really interesting, these names. But the box office, it did 127 million and 127 in the periodic tables tied to Tellurium, the 52nd element, which is tied to Prison Planet. So there's subtleties in there. Man, that whole, I should actually do a decode on that. Are you thinking about decoding that movie?
No, you need to, like, cause you will do a much, you know, your decodes are much more tailored to stuff like this. So I would love to see. But yeah, I mean, I resonated with this movie so much because, you know, the guy is like, he's from Brooklyn, I'm from Brooklyn. There's so many things in it that I was just like, yo, this movie was made for me. And like, it's part of my code that I watched it at this exact time in my journey when I watched it. And I've been feeling like this guy so much. Like, every time that something big happens in my life, I'm like, I know that some holographic version of myself was just like, okay, I need to shut down his internet right now. Like, I need to, this happens to me all the time, bro. Like, I was doing you know, I do my Friday live streams, right? And like 2 weeks ago, I think you were tuning in, and like, for the life of me, I double checked my internet. I shut off the router, turn it back on.
You shut my computer. In trouble, right? 3 times, I think you tried it or something.
Dude, like, they wouldn't let it happen. Like, something would not allow it. And the next day, I even tried doing a live stream, and it was perfect. Everything was perfect. Like, it made no sense why at that moment in time it wasn't working out for me. But then I remembered earlier in that day, I woke up and I was like not feeling it. Like, some days I'm really feeling to do what I'm set up to do. And it was a reminder, and this could be a reminder to everyone else too, is like, don't plan, because like when you plan, like, God laughs. You know, like, I love that saying, like, if you just revert the God to being you, like, you're the controller of this reality. So when I was watching this movie, I was seeing that there was a lot of those instances. And when they said to him, like, we needed you to spill the coffee at that one time so that you would miss, you know, work and be 10 minutes late and you wouldn't see what we were doing behind the scenes. It was like, there's been so many of those moments in my life where I was supposed to spill the coffee, but then I saw behind the curtain because I was on time, you know? So yeah, there's so much to say. That movie's brilliant. I think everyone should go check it out.
Yeah, and it's got the guy, one of the adjustment guys is the same guy who's in the movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey, who's the actual leader of the Yes movement. It's just, and Matt Damon is obviously in some other big movies, Elysium. You know, these movies.
That's one of my favorites.
Yep.
Yeah. I think Elysium was a shitty movie, but if you know the mythology and you know what Elysium is and watch it through that lens, then you'll enjoy it. But if you just like don't know anything about it and you don't know about the mythology, it's just a shitty sci-fi movie.
Yeah, it wasn't that well done, but
yeah. But wasn't he in a movie as well? Matt Damon was in a movie that was about Skull and Bones Society, and it was with
I just watched that. It was the CIA actually.
Yes. But he also went to literally the hmm Yeah, he literally went to Skull and Bones. They say it in the movie. Like he was
Uh-huh.
there in college. So he
Right,
went to
right.
Yale.
Oh, he went to Yale. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and they straight up just spill it out, and I'm like, wow, dude, they're not hiding shit in Hollywood.
No,
Like, it's just the super popular movies are much more mythologically based,
yeah,
like these Avengers and all that shit. But then the stuff that has these big characters that's not super popular, like, or not, it doesn't overshine their other works. That's the stuff that has tons of, esotericism and nuggets for you to for you to decode.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm in the process of decoding the movie Jupiter Ascending. Um,
What's that about?
well, it's a movie by the Wachowskis, or one of the Wachowskis, and it's
Oh, nice.
basically a girl named Jupiter who basically has this contract with Earth and the people that live on Jupiter, which is Abraxas, the Abraxas family. They're harvesting the energy from Earth.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's just but the guy who plays the antagonist um is who basically plays the mean Jupiter ruler is the son of Matt Damon in The Good Shepherd. Yeah, and there's you got to be able to see the layers. So those of you that are like, okay, I don't get it. Well, you have to watch all these movies to see
Yeah.
the connecting points with the coding. But
Well, it's amazing that you're bringing up this movie today, because today is Beltane, which is Tane, which
uh-huh,
Baal is Jupiter.
right,
So that's amazing that we're talking about this today, because I was just talking about it on my podcast earlier. We were talking about
oh,
Elon,
yeah, yeah,
and Elon's been on the everything this year so far has been coming back to this guy and Russia.
yeah,
It's like the two big things on the world stage, and Russia's the tiger, Jupiter, and
yeah.
Elon is Kronos, Saturn. So it's amazing that they always play this kind of like, I love it. Like, none of it bothers me anymore, because
Ah,
as a decoder, and in this state of neutrality that I've arrived at, I'm just like, wow, how this has been going on since the dawn of time,
yep,
and our unawareness to it. It's just amazing how immature some people could be when they learn this, and then they start getting upset and mad and saying, "Look at them controlling the world." And it's like, yeah, but you had all the all the data was right there for you to absorb.
yeah,
Like, they show you in the fucking Hollywood movies.
yeah, yeah,
They're not, what are they hiding? Like, it's like, can you get any more obvious than a Hollywood movie?
yeah,
Or like, look at the Statue of Liberty. Look at all the stuff that surrounds us.
yeah,
Look at the Washington Monument. Like, it's a fucking Egyptian obelisk, phallus of Osiris. Like,
yeah,
they're flexing this stuff. They're
yeah,
not hiding it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Speaking of Elon, I'm working on decoding him right now, so got that one coming
Sick.
up. Yeah, and I
When are you
just
planning on releasing that? Or you're just going with the flow?
yeah, well, I'm going to work on it this week, a little more. But just what I found so far was just ridiculous because, why did he choose? He's got this X. His last son's name was X.
Mm-hmm.
He got this, and I got to just look at the tarot and how funny the tarot. So his birth card is born on the 28th of June,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the two of clubs card, and the two clubs card is the two of wands, and the two of wands is the 24th card in the deck. And he's got this letter X and space X, which is the 24th letter. And that whole card just means, lawn is like the world in the palm of your hands, and you're changing the world through your visions, and how much of an influence that guy is. And just,
Yeah.
it's so ridiculous how he's being used as a person. He's influencing people, but his code is just was already written. It's just, and it's so amazing when I look at this stuff. And so he leads to the element chromium. Chromium's the 24th element on the periodic table, matching his space X. And then his son's name is X, and his birth card is the 24th card through the tarot.
Yeah, this was what I mentioned in my last YouTube video I put out. So anyone who goes to my YouTube channel from Logan's audience, that last video that I put out was talking about Elon Musk and his recent quote unquote Twitter purchase.
Yep.
And it was all tied to this. And what's so funny is this was all tied to the number 44, because
Yep.
it was the $44 billion purchase. And we were just talking about the Adjustment Bureau, and this the guy who wrote it, Philip K. Dick, And there was a 44 that I was seeing in this guy's code as well. So I'm like, what the hell, man? Like
Four
this,
novels,
yeah,
right?
he wrote 44 novels. So it's like, it's amazing how you stumble upon all of this stuff while you're talking about it. It's like just amazing. But yeah, anyways, that decode that I released, we're talking a lot about the X and the 24 and
Yeah.
XRP, of course, because their logo is the X. And he hasn't actually ever spoken about that crypto publicly, at least not that I'm aware of. But it sounds like he's gonna be the famous person to teach the world about the quantum economy.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I,
I
yeah.
think he's gonna be the light bearer of the quantum reality that's
For,
underway.
yeah, for sure. His um, his interview with TED Talks was pretty interesting. So I like watching some of the interviews he did just to get to know the guy. Like, what is he all about, and how does
I
he
can't
roll? And,
I can't listen to, like, I've
really?
noticed I think he's a fraud. Like I think
He's a
he's
fraud.
actually,
Okay.
no, I don't get any intellect at all for, like, I can clearly tell that he's remembering some things that he needs to say, and he has a very difficult time processing. And some people have even come out and said that it's because he's quote unquote so smart and like so intelligent and has such a high IQ that he needs to think harder before he speaks, because he needs to dumb down what
Right.
he's about to say. And that's not how reality, no, like, you wouldn't go through every conversation or anytime you're speaking through that pretentiousness. You know, you would never think every person I speak to I need, unless you're talking to a child. But he speaks to high level economists, you know, people all around the world, people who are in aeronautics. Like, he doesn't know what the fuck he's speaking about when he speaks.
Mm.
So I get a clear fraudulence from the guy. Like, he's not very good at articulating the script, even
Mm.
uh, as opposed to when I listen to somebody like Osho, you know, like, he's speaking slowly, but it's a conscious stream of information that's relevant, and it's not like consistently like glitching out. But Elon Musk is like glitching out when he's describing what he's saying, and I've gotten that he's really bad at remembering his script, whatever it is.
Mm. Interesting take on it. Interesting take on it.
I've
Well,
always wanted to pay attention to him, though, because like I said before, like, you listen to people, these influencers, and take away what you can. And I've never had a time where I've listened to him where I was able to extrapolate anything that mattered.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, his whole influence is, to me anyway, is to move humanity into the transhumanism way of life. Whether or not that comes to fruition, or we're having the option to do it or forced into it, or it will never happen, is besides the point. But that's obviously the MO of that, because he's all about moving from a gas powered car to an electrical car, which is a battery, and we're living inside of a battery. You are a battery, and then hooking up to artificial intelligence and essentially becoming that. So
100% agree. Like, the transhumanist agenda is going to be, you know, I think he's the light bringer for all of this stuff,
yeah,
for all of these.
he's one of them anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's the person who's the most sexy to do it, you
Right.
know, because he's given all of this energy by the media, by the bankers, by the technocrats. You know, he's like the king of our time in a sense,
Yeah.
for pushing the quote unquote most important agendas that all fit under the same, you know, realm of the globalist regime that they're in the process of implementing. And I guess me and you have sort of had conversations in regards to the inevitability of this. It's
Yeah.
not that it's necessarily draconian and like evil.
Right.
It's that the fucking resources to print money and make dimes and quarters is like, none of that's going to exist in the near future. Like, Mother Nature's having an issue producing food.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, if you think they're going to be in a cash world for forever, I mean, of course the first world countries are going to pivot in a direction that's going to be a little bit more extreme. When it comes to the third world or lower populated places, it's, you could just change it overnight. You know, the people are used to shit like that. But when it comes to how we move into a cashless society and how we move into that sort of blockchain based economy, however that's going to go, it's going to start out with a reward system. It's going to start out like the way you teach your dog how to stop using the bathroom in the house is the same way that the elites teach you guys how to live your life and transitions into what they need to transition into.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more with,
You reward them with a biscuit after they're done listening to you.
yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And that's the majority of the world right now. They want to be led. They want to have somebody rule over them because, they're programmed with got to go and punch the clock, or I got to go, have 50 houses and,
It's happening right now with crypto. Like crypto has earned rewards and staking and these DAOs and, node validators and all these things that give you fake currency that have no actual intrinsic value. But
yeah,
it's that reward system that people are obsessed with. And again, like there's a positive to it. It's not all bad. There is a lot of money to be made if you time it properly. But what the problem is here is that we are forfeiting all of like our soul to
yeah,
accept the quote unquote good of this, because the good is tied to the profitability, but it's at the expense of sovereignty in the future system that'll come in. So even though my channel covers crypto, I do it through this lens. Like it's about teaching people how to understand what's happening here in our reality so that you can be the most organic, high vibrational, empowered being through this transition of the masses accepting transhumanism.
yeah.
Like if I could sum up my whole work into like a statement, it was what I just said.
I love it.
Like it's not just about you guys making money or you guys like becoming more blissful or neutral. Like it's about getting ready to pivot yourself into a world. And if you knew about every financial collapse before it happened a year in advance, well, you could protect you and your family accordingly, right?
That's right.
And when a big financial collapse happens, whether you're doing okay or doing poorly, like it feels like the way that they set up the narrative is that we all fail together. Even Barack Obama was trying to do this back in 2008. I think he was successful as well, but he would come out every single day and say that, we're all in this together. It's like, what do you mean? Like, you mean the people are failing together and you and your friends are golfing?
Yeah.
Like you're all in mansions, and people who barely had a credit score or spoke English as the first language were being given mortgages that they barely had a down payment on.
Yeah.
It's a fucking scam. But it benefited the people who were the smartest and the most tempered. And when it comes to investing or making financial decisions, the people who always win are the best at controlling their emotions.
Totally. Yeah, totally. I wanted to just throw a few more things about Elon. I through this Decode, I'm looking at how you say his name. So I know a lot of people say it's L, but we don't say it's Elon, it's Elon. And so that letter E is the fifth letter, and the fifth zodiac sign is Leo, and it's ruled by the sun. And Elon is all about electricity. And, is Elon, and Elon is 20 in numerology total. 71 is the 20th prime number. 71 is tied to lutetium, which is Lucifer. So is it possible Elon is maybe working for the sun? That's something that I would just throw out there to all you great decoders to kind of work off of. But I wanted to just talk about this 44 and why it's big, because we were just talking about transhumanism. And do you know the word transhumanism equals the number 44? And 44 in the string of pi and the string of the golden ratio is going to be just neck and neck. The 44 through the golden ratio is 58 and 59, digits 58 and 59, and the digits of pi, 44 appears at the 59 and 60. So it's tied to the game of life, which is 59. It's tied to the puppet master, 58. And it's also tied to the Great Pyramid of Giza because it's tied to the number 60, which is the latitude, longitude of the Great Pyramid of Giza. I think the Great Pyramid of Giza, Jordan, has a lot to do with our reality. I'm pretty excited. I'm going to be doing a podcast with Jason Brashears from Archaics, which is I don't know if you know who he is, but he's an up and coming influencer, and he's about the simulation theory, and he's really big into the pyramid. I can't wait. I'm going to be doing probably my podcast with him next week, so I'm pretty stoked about that. But,
oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, I was talking about the pyramids on the Friday live stream a little bit, kind of breaking down the way that I perceive them, and yeah, there's definitely something going on here, but
Totally.
One of the things about the number 44 that I know you'll love, and what I was talking about in my last YouTube video about Elon Musk and the $44 billion purchase of Twitter being 4 years, 4 months, and 4 days since he asked on Twitter, how much does Twitter cost?
Yep.
Well, the 44th element is ruthenium, right? And ruthenium is the Latin word, ruthenia is the Latin word for Russia.
Yep.
So, of course, this comes back to Russia, because him and Russia are the two trending topics of our world, and with ruthenium being the 101 and also the 10107, the 117, but the 101 in particular is important because this is the 21st anniversary of 9/11, and the 1-1, the Twin Towers, or the Yakin and Boaz, the twin pillars. Yep. So there's so much tied into this, because when I was decoding the Super Bowl, I was bringing back everything tying to the Russia-Ukraine conflict and how this was, this is perfectly by the code. Ukraine and Russia together in English ordinal both equal the same outcome as Twin Towers. So, and this is all happening in the Shemitah year. Again, 9/11 happened in a Shemitah year.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to get dicey, man, after Rosh Hashanah in September. That's my opinion on it. And it's nothing to be afraid of, ladies and gentlemen. Just be ready. Be ready for anything. But it's, we got to go through this growing pain to deliver the baby.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I did my Shemitah Decoded, and why I shared that, because it's about preparing yourself, like, emotionally and spiritually. Like, don't be afraid of all this physical shit that's going to happen. Like, that's just a tiny little slither of it all. And if you want to prepare your physical for what's going to come energetically, there's a lot of things you can do. We talked about a bunch of that on today's podcast. So however you want to, dice it, it's much, much better to be aware of the upcoming Rosh Hashanah and the 2 eclipses that'll follow that than to not be aware of it,
Totally.
And it's May, so there's plenty of time for preparation. I mean, this is my work, this is my life's work, and what I share with everyone. I've known about this Shemitah year now for going on probably 2 full years. So I've been 100% prepared. I'm at a place right now where I really don't care what happens next. And I don't mean I'm careless. I mean that, I'm just spiritually okay with whatever happens.
Yeah.
And it's allowed me to be free of any worry. Yep. And that worry, I know, brings people into quite a dark place. And for the people who are completely unconscious to what's going on and what might happen after September, wow, I couldn't even imagine being that person. You know what I mean? So I couldn't even imagine, like, if I knew what I know today, or if I remembered what I have remembered recently back in 2007 or 2000, the moves I could have made, the things that I could have done to not only prepare myself, but to benefit off of it. Because in every great collapse, energy that has left the masses needs to go somewhere.
Yep. It's like in a big explosion, like a bomb going off.
100%. And they drop their bombs after Rosh Hashanah every 7 years. Like, it's just what they do. Like, it's cyclical in that nature. By the 7s, there's a clear importance around the 7. I mean, even yesterday, the crypto market, which trades alone over the weekends, last night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I've taught people that the market, the stock market and cryptos and all of the things that are tied to markets are operating on New York time, the bull over in Wall Street. Like, that's what runs that time. So with that being said, at 7 p.m. last night, again on the night of the eclipse, the crypto market started to slide. It started to have a little bit of a correction. So it is just what it is, whether it's algorithmically timed like that, or it's the natural way that all of humanity is deciding to panic sell. I mean, I don't really necessarily agree with that when it comes to crypto, because crypto is very algorithmic. But just to be said, there's the very powerful meaning behind the number 7, and we're in that Shemitah year. So it's a year to continue to do that decoding work as we are, and figure out more about it and how we could implement it.
Yeah. Well, remember, 7 is the 4th prime number, and that gives you the 74, which is tied to the wolf and tungsten and feeding the wolf. And see, this is like more advanced decoding that I do, but I look a lot at trigonometry, and I look at the sine and cosine waves of numbers. And the number 7, the sine and cosine wave, ends up equaling the number 144. So these are layers that are working behind the scenes, whether you believe in them or not. And these are definitely have their say on the world stage, because this is how you measure the number's frequency, the sine and cosine wave of a number. And that's what the 7's all about. If you're a fan of the 7, and that sine wave runs through the chakras. It starts at the root, number 1, and the Kundalini rises, the dragon rises, and it goes up to number 7, and the cycle repeats. And so, you have the lower chakras where the primal hangs out. And then when it rises up, the Kundalini rises up and it gets past the heart and it moves up into the higher realms. You get into love and spirit. But if you're down in the primal where fear hangs out, well, that's a pretty, it's a way of living. I was there for a long time in my life personally. I lived in the lower chakras for a large portion of my life. It was fun. There's a lot of fun there.
Yeah.
That's where all the fun happens down there.
For those of you who want to know about an individual who's completely exhausted the lower chakras of his reality, go watch The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, Jordan.
You'll see somebody that's exhausted all of the faculties regarding such conversation.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But I'm so glad you came out with the Shemitah, because I learned so much from that. I was ear to ear smiles when you were doing it.
Yeah, and I mean, there's other interpretations of just the way that word is written out. Like some people write it Shemitah, like Shemitha. Like there's so many ways to decode it. So I really put out the decode for other people to build off of it, and like my specialty is the analytical side of the markets, like as a technical analyst, and that being the main focus of my channel besides decoding, of course. I was just looking at it for its cyclical nature and how the world has big, chaotic, volatile moments in not only finances, but in all the big wars, all the big changes of, falls of empires, rises of new empires, all of that stuff. It's all regarding this 7-year cycle. And it's not just about the Jews or Judaism. It's deeper than that. It goes back to like, why is it even that this number is so powerful, and Logan breaking down the cosine wave and et cetera, like that's fascinating. I mean, even just the periodic table, how nitrogen is the 7th element, right?
Yeah, and it has the weight of it is pi. It's 14.003. It's pi. It's got the permutation of pi in it. So that tells you right there, it's like pi is time, and as the wave moves through us, it's our time. Our time is up. So you want to have that dragon rise up and move through the lower chakras, through the heart. Stay in the heart chakra, but then be slightly love, be slightly on the positive, the spirit side, and you'll find your solace. But that's going to require discipline, and it's going to probably require you as a person to get rid of a lot of the things that you have built into your life as habitual things. From the clothes you wear, the people you hang around with. I love, who Jim Rohn is? He's a great personal development guy. Ever heard of Jim Rohn?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. So anyway, he said something great, which I use a lot. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's pretty profound.
I think I actually kind of said that a little bit earlier when we were discussing, saying no more than you say yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
For sure. But that's it. I mean, I don't even hang out with 5 people, so my list is actually smaller than that. But, what are the things if just forget about people? What are the 5 main things that are influencing your life right now? Just look at that.
Yeah. Can you count them on one hand, right? Like that's saying that the 5, the 4 fingers and the thumb.
That's it.
Count them on one hand. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I can speak from experience. Like what is one of the 5 things that have an influence over my life? Decoding. That's one of my friends. So I just look at decoding as an archetype. It's a friend. And then, reading, research, maybe that would even fall into the same line as that. The gym, I'm a huge health nut. So the gym would be on my 5 fingers.
Wow. This just came to me. Like if you can name 5 things, or if you could name more things that you're passionate about than people you're passionate about, then you're probably more on your path.
That's pretty profound, dude. Yeah, I would say that's spot on. Wow, that's
because
perfect.
it builds off of this, you know, five people you surround yourself with, and like the success of how, or the failure of your outcome based on those five individuals. It's like, for me, like I notice the smaller my circle gets, the more the Titan like quality to my circle shows itself. You
Yeah,
know, it's like
for
I I
sure.
I build a, you know, a force field or a moat around my reality of people that really have a profound impact. Like we are living in a symbiotic effect with
Yep.
each. There's no division, there's no arguments. I mean, me and you could talk for probably like 3 days straight without, I don't think we would argue unless we started to get you know, hungry, or if there
Yeah.
was like if there was like the weather started getting bad, you know. So like it's just funny, like when you really vibe with someone, when you really vibe with an individual and that person is a creative being,
Uh,
you know, at that, that's really something to hold on to. Like never let go of those individuals. You know, they're more than friends, they're family, they're soulmates, right? Like that's how
for
we would.
sure. For
and
sure.
and and we're gonna come across those people if we allow those people to come into our reality. Like
Uh,
those of you out there that have 4 or 5 people that absolutely tear you down, keep you, and maybe you don't even realize they are, but after this podcast you're gonna maybe self-reflect, look in the mirror, ask yourself like, who is in my circle, and are these beings like here for the growth of me, and do I feel like I could perpetuate the growth for them? Because people that want you to fail, or maybe they don't want you to, but people who are failures themselves, they're always going to seek that the people they surround themselves with want to be down there with them,
that's right.
right? So if you're somebody who has a great idea, or you're passionate about something, you have a skill about something, whatever it is, and you're trying to ride that wave to create your own business or to help people or whatever it is that you're going to do, and someone in your circle shoots you down and gives you lack instead of abundance, you need to get that fucker out of your life.
Yep.
it,
Agree.
it could it could be your mom.
Yep.
Like it could literally be the person who made you, and I know that sounds crazy, but like it just is what it is. We take these sacrifices all the time of surrounding ourselves by weak people who are not here to help us grow, or they themselves do not want to grow either.
Yeah.
Some of us are super fortunate where we were lucky, where all the, like, you know, the cards we were dealt are positive and loving, and some of us were dealt a hand that, you know, it sucks, and it could be for some people quite dark. But no matter what hand you have, how will you react to the hand that you were given?
Yep. That's the big key, reaction. If
Exactly.
you can control your reactions and realize that you're controlling your reactions, you're on the right track.
And
If
you
there
can
is such,
control your outcome.
yep, yeah, that's right. But most people react based upon, you know, what I see. You know, go. When I went back to the U.S. just the other day, I came back to Mexico. What I see is a large portion of people that are just reacting without even thinking of it. They're not even conscious of their reactions. And that's just because life gets in the way. When when you're able to pull back from that and consciously observe your life and say, how am I reacting to this situation? You know, that's a win for you, because when you're conscious of your reactions, that's a win, because then you're able to look at them and say, is this the best experience for my life right now?
Right. And you don't even have to be like, just being conscious of the reaction is enough. If you were an asshole in that reaction, just being aware that you were an
Yeah.
asshole is fucking incredible.
Huge. It's huge.
It's huge. Like, and I've, you know, like that's a profound, that's a paradigm shift for a lot of people, just to realize. And the narcissist tactics, or the egotistical like qualities that we all have, right? And we do that out of protection, whether it's the protection of where we are in the social hierarchy, or the, or life, or the job title we have. Like, you know, the number one reason why women are paid less than men in the United States of America, besides the fact that they decide to work jobs where they're risking their life, if you take that aspect away, it's because people don't want to talk openly about how much money they make. We will protect the how much we make, and we like hoard it, like the way when you throw food to a dog, it'll bring the food into a corner away from everyone to eat it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do that with our wage amount.
Yeah. That's
So
so
because
true.
we're not vocal about it, it's easier for the boss to take advantage of manipulating the wages accordingly. So, you know, and like the number one symbol of this, of all secret societies, is just putting your finger over your lips. It's
Yeah. Be quiet.
That's how you control the fucking world.
Yeah.
You keep them quiet.
Yeah.
So those of you that are roaring lions, you know, it's fucking difficult to control you. You know, you don't. So it's interesting when you start looking at life through this lens of like, you just want to do your best to be aware of how you are, how you communicate, how you interact. And that awareness is so crucial. Now, what will you do about it? You know, because if you're aware and everyone hates you, or they're not seeking counsel from you, or any companionship whatsoever, that's a sign you might have something you want to change.
Most definitely. That is a sign that you probably want to make some changes in your life. Everybody can make these changes in your life. And again, to change your life, you have to change your life. And that has to be, that comes from a conscious space. I mean, when you go on vacation, you're like, oh, I want to go on vacation. You're conscious of picking a place you want to go vacation on. And then you got to go log on and maybe get the plane ticket. You're conscious of that. Oh, I want to pick United, or I want Southwest, or whatever. And then you got to pick how long you're going to go for. And then you got to buy whatever to go on your vacation. You got to pick the hotel, and that's being in the moment. That's being in the now moment. But you know, most people don't live like that.
Well, if you told people all of that the way that you did, it might actually make them scared of going on the trip, because they're like, oh shit, I have too many things to think about.
Yeah.
Like I've heard people say that they don't want to get into investing because of capital gains tax. Like that was their whole reason. And I'm like, okay, well, that's on you, you know, but when we're about to make a move, most of the time when we're weighing out the list of pros and cons, it's stuff that is so negligible, but it adds up just enough for something that we fear.
Sure.
You know, and I think about this is this is an indoctrinative principle that happens at a very young age. It's like they teach you to fear your mother, fear your teacher, fear your boss, fear God, you know, and why should I fear these people who created me and allegedly create the intelligence I have and all of how does the stone fear the person who's chiseling into it? Like does the marble fear the sculptor?
Yeah. Or does the chisel feel the marble?
It's like, this is a deep philosophical concept, but like I think about this sometimes because how important it would be to just fucking go for it. Like it's like that Nike quote, just do it, right? Yeah. I know it's kind of dumb because it's Nike, but also it's like, it is so true. Like I know this first and foremost because I'm a very creative person. There's so much I want to do, you know, so I have to work on just taking it one step at a time. That's been like my quote lately. Like that's been my mantra every time, like, cause I'm in the process of working on something called an expansion mastermind, where it's going to be talking about like all this non-financial stuff that we talk about and everything else. So I'm working on that, and it's just like, it's never ending. Once I got going, I'm like 20, pages deep into this book that I have. So I know that I have so much creative energy, and sometimes that could be overwhelming, like too much. It's like when you're a musician who works on a song, when do I stop working on this?
Yeah, exactly.
Does it need to be a symphony, or is it good enough? So
good is good enough. Yeah.
So think about that. Like for people that are struggling with their creation because they're feeling like they lack it, for people who are very in touch with their creative ability, they have that problem too. It's like, when has the Tower of Babel reached the feet of God?
Yeah. Well, I mean, with that being said, if you're struggling with your creativity, those of you that are resonating with that, like what would be the very best things to fast track you to get on track to become the very best creator? Clean your life up. Cut out the cancers in your life. Start eating live foods. Drink more water. Make sure you're not a desert. And then when you check all those off the list, I bet you'll be more creative. Mm-hmm. See, a lot of people, they don't get creative because their frequency is so low. And that's like a dead car battery. Barely turns over the motor. A lot of you just getting that click noise. You ever go get in a car and your battery's dead and you go hit the key and it goes click. That's it. That's all you get. Click. Ah, shit. Click. Well, that's how some people's lives are. They don't get
And
past.
you wanna know something that's so funny too is like that fact that you mentioned, but on top of that, they're thinking that they don't have enough gas in their car.
Yeah.
So they're just filling it, filling it, filling it. It's overflowing fucking out of the gas tank, and they're sitting there still clicking because they don't realize it's the battery.
Or they're being siphoned. A lot of you put gas in the tank, you wake up, you get a full tank of gas, and then you get out there and you just let everybody stick their freaking pipe in you, and drain you, dude, and siphon all the energy out of you. And you love it. You love giving all your shit away because the static is more important. You feel fulfilled when you get all your fix. That's your fix. A lot of people, I'm not addicted. I'm not addicting. Oh, and then people judge like, oh, they're addicted to that drug. Yeah. You're addicted to the freaking news, man. It's the same. It's a drug. It's the same thing.
It comes full circle. It comes full circle to what I was saying about Osho and like the Rajneesh and all of that. It's like, you know, really people lack the desire to go find for themselves, and they're so quick to cast judgments. And like, these are really the things that are keeping your battery from working, you know?
Yep.
And I think we talked about this on the Deception versus Influence podcast, about how like, yeah, you're allowing your gasoline to be siphoned from you. Like, you make that choice to allow it to be siphoned from you. And what I do every day when I wake up is I make it so in order to siphon my gas tank, I'm going to make it very expensive for people, for everyone. That includes the apex predators.
Yep.
For everyone. And I'm not talking about financially expensive. I mean, in all ways expensive, you know? Like, if you are struggling with the financial thing, that's a separate conversation. That comes back to self-worth on a spiritual level. But outside of that, don't make it easy for them to siphon your gas. Like, if you get on Instagram and you start like getting all depressed, or you start living vicariously through a reality that isn't yours, like this virtual kind of reality thing that's going on, then you're making it very easy for them to steal your essence.
Yep. Very, very, very profound words right there by the great Jordan at Waters Above Crypto. For sure. That's what it's all about. But again, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to achieve the best experience in life, your life has to be the cleanest it possibly can be. That's where you're going to have the most bliss.
It's like if you lost your car keys and you think they're in your bedroom, and your bed sheets and the pillows and like all this, there's like fucking cat litter on the floor. There's just, you could feel things under your feet as you're walking. There's no clean floor.
Yeah.
It's like, how are you going to find your solution if your floor is covered in problems? Like, you got to sweep that up, you know, solve like it once you clean, like, you know, once you get your shit together, then you could actually start to identify what's actually in your reality. Most people are struggling with people are so caught up in identifying that they don't even know how to self-identify like what's going on in their reality.
Yep. So true.
Like, people are too worried about what bathroom sign is hanging up at the restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, fix your fucking bathroom first.
Yep. Just
the sign is the least of your worries.
The sign is the least of your worries is right, man.
It's like having the caution dog sign, you know, it's like warning dog.
Yeah.
Like that, we're putting up signs in every aspect of our reality, but you know, like, why is the dog barking and acting so aggressive?
Yeah.
Like, instead of warning the whole world about, you know, and this is what people do. And I know that's a little bit analogous in a sense, but like, when we do connect with people, the average starting point for conversations is our problems and our drama. It's like, hey, Logan, here's my drama. And I unpack that on you. And now you feel bad. So you're going to have to keep up with that lower frequency. And then it just perpetuates, and it sort of burrows itself, and it stays there. It keeps you, as opposed to lifting you up and levitating you.
Yeah.
So it's these tiny little things. And again, that comes back to the people you surround. Like, the number one thing that I do whenever I'm on calls with people, whenever I'm taking a client call, is I think about the way that they're asking questions, the way that they're articulating their ideas, what they seek out of everything. And then I build like the methodology for communication around, how do I levitate this person? Like, by the end of this conversation, how do I get them floating? You know,
that's the name of the game. Yeah. You want them not walking on eggshells. You want them, you know, walking on water.
100%. And it's like, I love that quote where where I'm trying to remember it, but it's like, I walked on water and my haters said it was because I can't swim.
That's great.
That's a bar.
That's really good. That's really
Yeah,
good.
that's a bar. But that's a whole different level. Like, and I'm sure perhaps for the people that do have things figured out and they are really aligned with their code and they're really just fucking kicking ass right now, because we've yet to even discuss that. Like, I'll speak for myself. Now I'm really focused on the spell casting. Like, every word that I say, everything I write down, I wake up every day and I just write what I'm grateful for. Even if it's something that seems negative, I'll thank that thing,
Yep.
And the same thing goes with, my personal wealth, worth, like all things like that. Like, I try to put myself where I know I am, even if I'm not necessarily there right now. I accept that I am there. Perhaps that's a manifestation conversation though, but you would know because you are into the work of Neville Goddard and
Yep.
some of these individuals, and that's very much the technique.
Well, it's all about the imagination. And that's really what imagination is 33, which is why the G is the 33 in the middle of the Masonic compass, and square, because it's all about the imagination of the brain, which most people consciously don't do, or they're too afraid to do it, and act on their imagination. But
do you feel like when you're decoding that you're decoding through the lenses of imagination, or do you feel like there's some other mechanism going on there where and this is to just be transparent, and I feel like it's important for the decoding community. Do you sometimes feel like when you're decoding, not personally, but I just mean in general, like, do you feel like it's running in circles? Like, do you ever feel like you could go so deep to the point where it almost becomes worthless at some point?
that's already that I'm already at that stage, I think.
Yeah. Where it just becomes like convoluted in a sense.
Yeah.
I try to behave when I get there, like, because I know that I could keep going and I know that it would make sense to like someone. But then I wonder, like, am I doing this for like, at what point does this end having value?
Yeah, it's bottomless. So, and when you get to, when you get there, as I mentioned earlier, the meme, the rich man digs for truth, but the poor man complains about what they might find. So, and so you want to,
I love that.
But that you're not happy. When you get down to these deep layers, you having a reaction to that and knowing you're having a reaction is knowing you're conscious. So when I'm decoding and I'm going to, deep levels, right? Some people just do it through meditation. They get cannabis or mushrooms, or they go or ayahuasca or whatever. And you go to these deep levels and it's like, what's your reaction going to be to these levels? And that's the same as reacting to things in this consciousness that we're in right now, having this conversation. Is how are we reacting to this? How, all of you that are listening to my voice, Jordan's voice, how are you reacting to some of the things that we're putting out here, these ideas, right? The reaction is everything, because you're constantly being bombarded by influence. And then are you reacting to are you turning the influences off, which I said earlier? If you take 2 hours a day and put it into a new hobby, into a new course to build or something, rather than putting it into the stuff that you give your energy or your power away. As Jordan said, you're siphoning off your fuel tank, your gas tank. If you just take all that power back and put it into, if we all did that, then that's how you make a major change on the world stage. That's how you become an influencer versus being influenced. And that's how I want to end this podcast, Jordan, because I know you got to go soon. I want to talk a little bit about love is allowing, because people in the decoding world, when I say, it's been taken out of context, people say, well, does that mean you shouldn't be doing anything? Like, you shouldn't be fighting back to these people. Is that what it means? I'm like, no, that's not what it means. And so your great concepts, love is allowing, which, as I'm a huge fan of, and I use it all the time as much as I can. It doesn't mean to not get out there and do your thing on the world stage. But folks, remember what I'm saying here. If every single person stopped giving their energy to the things you're resisting against, they would no longer exist. But that would never happen, because there are too many people that love their shit. They love it. And so they will just let their energy go because they got to get their fix. And the fix is tied to the trap. The trap is recognizing you're in the trap, is trying to get out of the trap, and getting out of the trap is knowing you're in the trap. And it's just a big F you contradiction. And so love is allowing means like, just they're going to do their job, you're going to do your job. But if you keep paying attention more to their job, you're going to be influenced more by them, and you're not going to do much of your job. So what I'm saying and proposing when I say the game is scripted and fixed is that just go do you. And then and love is allowing is letting them do them. I'm not interested in what they're doing. Don't care. I don't go to dinner with Donald Trump. He doesn't even know who the hell I am. Why would I put any time into the political debates that he's doing? Maybe just because I want to have a good laugh, or I want to just maybe learn about personalities. Maybe. But love is allowing to me is just, to just let people do what they got to do and stop trying to resist that and go be you. Go. And a lot of you are not being you. You're too busy being somebody else. But I want to hear your take on it, Jordan, because you've really coined that. And, and I think people want to know really, what are your deepest aspects of this love is allowing and these concepts?
I think I feel what you're saying 1,000,000%. And one of the ways that we could just imagine for a second, use our imagination. Let's just say you were born in New York City, right? You didn't even know that a lion existed until you learned about it or you went to a zoo, or you were told about it in a story, or you watched the Lion King movie. Most human beings, the first time seeing a lion is on the Lion King movie.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So where I'm going with this is that you are realizing as you're growing up that the apex predator is the lion. You learned about that lion. Now that you learned about it, now you need to protect yourself from being eaten by the lion. But just like the lion is in the savannah of Africa, it's so far separated from your reality. Why would you let that bother you? And now that's the philosophical question. We want to allow it to bother us because we're now aware of what the lion has been doing.
Uh-huh.
But when the lion looks at the wounded hyena or looks at the giraffe, it's not looking at another lion. It's looking at food. You are their food. Like the people who run this world, you're simply their food. And what you do to protect yourself is get away from that. And you already are away from that. Even if you live in the city of London, next to the Rothschilds, they are powerless over you from a physiological perspective. So it's just deep, because I think we're at the time right now where people are seeking to have a finger to be pointed at some sort of nefarious group of people. And in that effort of waiting for the quote unquote good guys to show up and save you from the boogeyman, you just end up with the waiting game where you don't get shit done. So for someone to take love as allowing and turn that into let's just be lazy and wait, it's actually the antithesis. What we're doing here with this process of our existence is learning how to live and not exist. Existence is for, it's for them.
Yeah.
It's not for you. The ones who rule this world don't live. Their closest they get to life is the energy that you give them.
Mm-hmm.
They have no life. They are literally lifeless. They exist. So the number one thing that you could do to defeat them is live. Don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So I know the decoding community is built on unfortunately, it's built on the foundation of these nefarious people. But I'm going to do everything I can in my power, and I know you will as well, to expose the truth, to help people unlock the power within so that these vampires don't exist in our reality anymore.
Yep.
Remember, the vampire can only come in your house if you allow it into your house.
Yep.
They teach you this in the movies, and it's deep. They're telling you the truth. The vampire doesn't come out during the day, and it will only get into your house if you invite it in. So how do we invite this vampire into our house? With our cell phones, with our computers, with all of the influential things we allow to be influenced by.
Oof, so true. And to, I guess, to dr- put the cherry on top, vampires 27 in Chaldean numerology. So, uh, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things that, really people will take away from their expansion is don't let things, don't let things easily step all over you. And when you start getting in a negative emotion into your life, if you start getting sad or angry, like trust me, like I'll speak openly. Like when I started learning about like the deep underground military bases and like all these children being sacrificed, like bro, like I was fucking crying. Like it was tearing me to shreds. It's fucked up.
Yeah.
Like when you know when you know that, when you start learning about organ harvesting and all this, like, yeah, it fucking sucks.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not gonna let that like end how I'm moving forward in my life, you know? So again, it's horrible. Do your part to prevent that shit from happening to you, your community, and whatever you can. Like I get the point in spreading awareness of it as well. Like I think that's kind of the defense that some people have why we should be quote unquote fighting for this.
Yep.
Because they think it's about this ultimate exposure. But guess what? The same team that's allowing the exposure of this has 50 million other psyops to just completely coerce the situation and steer it the way they want it to go.
Yep.
There's as much of a benefit of people learning about the blood sacrifice rituals as there is about flat earth, as there is about NASA, as there is about, they are, by telling you straight up to your face the truth, they still can maintain power over all through this energy harvesting experiment that me and Logan have been talking about this entire time. So it's really important that people understand that with the truth or with lies, it really doesn't matter to them. They don't need to worry about you finding out about the truth. What they need to quote unquote worry about is you living your fucking life for yourself.
Yeah.
That's what would worry them, because there's no government, there's no politics, there's none of that, no money when you start living for yourself as a species, as a global community. How do we get there? I mean, I don't think this matrix is designed to get there, and that might be a conversation for the future. But I don't think this place was designed necessarily like that to accomplish that. And that is even taught to us in Genesis and like the basic point of all the beginning of the scriptures. It's like once you have a physical human in a physical world, it's going to desire to a place where it creates what we have today.
Most definitely.
So the only way to go back to zero is to literally go back to fucking zero. It's not like walking down the other side of the mountain. That's not how this goes. It's Pandora's box. Like everything we have now is and always will be, and it will start to decay at whatever rate is necessary and natural. But other than that, that's it. You can't take 8 billion or 7 billion people right now and just all reduce them down to having no technologies anymore, having no communication system. We would start to have a zombie apocalypse. People actually love their blue pill. Yeah. People love their central heating. People love their grocery store. People love all this shit. Yeah. So it's a double-edged sword. What we desire out of having a quote-unquote free world is paradoxical in a lot of ways, because once practiced, which very few people have practiced such, they don't know the discomfort that comes with living a natural life.
Yeah.
So how does this whole system exist? Because those apex predators designed a system to allow that.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, it's all about the harvesting of energy. And again, what you as a person right now listening to this, what do you give your energy to? That's it. And so love is allowing. Thank you for sharing that, Jordan. Your concepts. I always love to hear your concepts on it.
Of course, man. How long have we been going for?
I don't know. I haven't been finding it, but
yeah, I haven't even been looking at the screen. I mean, we've covered so many. Wow.
Yeah,
this is probably the best podcast we've done, actually, in my opinion. The one that I feel was like the most expansive and covered everything. And
yeah, we just kind of compiled a lot of good nuggets into one.
Yeah, and I don't even there was zero planning.
Zero planning. Yeah, zero planning. So yeah, we started off with not knowing what we were going to talk about. We've talked about a plethora of things. that kind of just, as they always do, seamlessly and just blend it all together. We went through.
Dude, I love it, man. Like I have so much love for you, and I have a lot of love for your community as well. Like I've had so many incredible people that have showed up over from us connecting on these podcasts. So, you know, it's always amazing to see a new one go out and then the expansion of both communities simultaneously.
Dude, thank you, man. I love you like a brother, and we haven't even met personally in
I
person.
know, like I was actually hoping that you would stay in the States a little longer, but I'm probably
I may be going back, so just for
oh
back and forth a little bit to help my friend. So it may happen again. We'll see.
yeah, when we meet, we'll do a podcast in person for sure. I think
Yeah,
that'll be real epic because it's
yeah.
so different when you're with somebody and you can
Oh,
see their
way
facial
different.
expressions and kind of feed off their energy. So I
Yeah,
think that would just be an amazing like that'd be such an amazing time to do an actual podcast like that.
agreed. Agreed. I think it would be a really good time. But yeah, we've talked a lot about so many different topics, blending them all together. So before we go, I want to just ask you, like, what's the main thing that you're doing right now in the decoding world, besides, nothing outside of decoding. So, because I'm a decoder, as you, that's my main thoroughfare, a big piece of it. But I want to know, like, what's a big project you're working on right now? What's just a topic that's really grabbing your attention right now?
Um, Duality consciousness.
Okay.
I've been really diving deep into a decode I'm working on in the background about duality and where it fits in this whole reality, where it fits in where it fit in my reality, where it still is, and why it is the way it is, and all of that. So yeah, the decode I'm working on that is quite deep and will be outside of the crypto work that I typically do. And I am actually in the midst of designing a Gematria masterclass I think I've already made about 120 slides. And what I'm deep diving in, what was that?
I said, wow, nice. 120 slides.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I want to release that hopefully by the end of the summertime. I don't really want to put any date on it because the last time I did that, I got bogged down with too many work hours. But essentially, I'm really focused on getting that out there because a lot of people who come to my work, they don't know anything about Gematria. They're actually coming in from, or what they do know about Gematria is not the stuff that I necessarily think matters. And that's not to like shut anyone down or anything like that. It's just when it comes to doing decoding Gematria numerology, you need to have a base knowledge. You need to have something to bring this back to.
Right.
You know, so if you don't know of the mythologies or any of the scriptures or the Kabbalah or anything really for that matter, the Vedas, Vedic astrology, sidereal, tropical, like if you don't really have much to go off of and you're just stepping into the realm of Gematria, it's really easy to fall for base level stuff that actually doesn't have too much utility. So I'm developing something based on the way I would like to teach somebody decoding from the ground up, but have it have a lot of, weight to bring back to something so they don't need to rely on me. Because everything that I design, I want to make courses where people don't need to rely on me anymore. I think the greatest teachers are the ones that give you the tools and then you could go out on your merry way and take it from there.
Yeah.
So I'm implementing a system where I feel like it'll answer a lot of questions. It'll help people a lot. And I've definitely been adding in some of the things that you've been using, specifically the periodic table, because I texted you this the other day, like breaking down the word element, of course, the table of elements, and El is the most common word for God, and ment or mentis or mente means mind. So breaking that down to the mind of God, it is the building blocks, the architecture of the matrix. So I know that it matters to get into the periodic table as part of our decoding, but we need to, again, have base knowledge. So it's beautiful that the Royal Society of Chemistry always tells you the definitions of the origin of the elements, and it's always coming back to the Greeks. Or, so again, another reason to have some backbone of mythology.
Totally.
Yeah, so I'm really working hard on that and coming up with something that could be good for all levels. You know, people who are brand new, and if you're advanced, coming from Logan's channel, you're still going to be able to come around and pick something up. And I think that's really what I'm trying to get done.
It
But
sounds like a winner, man. I'm got kind of got the same thing coming out too, but not. I have a lot of people asking me to make a decoding course, like just exactly what you described there. Um,
yeah,
maybe
man. Well,
you and
I
I could
think
do something together. That'd be freaking badass, dude.
yeah, I think, you know, your specialty is more into, well, not specialty that you're saying directly, but what I've noticed in your work is bringing this all together and sort of where it fits in into people's direct realities. And you are, when you did the personal reading for me, I was blown away because I was like, holy shit, you know, there's so much here that I wouldn't have noticed, but now it's all making sense, you know?
Yeah,
That course from you, I think, would be so helpful to the
that's what I'm
world.
working. Yeah, I'm working on that one. So
That's the one where I feel, and that's not necessarily the one, that's not really the modus operandi of what I'm doing. So, right there, I mean, you coming out with something like that would be go hand in hand
yep.
with future work that I have. So, I think that, you know, you and we've talked about this plenty of times regarding that. I know you're getting busier in life. You want to definitely spend more time on traveling, and as do I. So schedule's getting bogged down, and that's another big reason for designing courses. It's like people can do it on their own time. They're self-managed, and there doesn't need to be, you know, they could go at their own pace.
Yes.
So there's so much purpose for it. And then, you know, the readings people could do on themselves, and then they could teach other people how to do readings, or maybe even start doing readings on other people. So it's a very fractal in nature type of thing, you know?
Totally. Yeah,
And
totally.
that's what I want to do. Like, I want to get the ball rolling on something like that, because crypto is fine and all, but I think that if we're just talking about numbers, me and you can talk about it all day and we already get it. You know, like when you brought up the 27 before, it's like me and you could start laughing, but everyone else is probably like, what the fuck are these guys talking about? So, but that being said, like, we're gonna get it to the point where like you guys listen to some of the crazy decoding shit we talk about, and you're gonna be like, oh, okay, I know what they're talking about, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
And that's kind of like what I've noticed happens the most to me in my inbox. It's like people reach out and they're like, the two criticisms that I get from, not necessarily directed at me, but just towards gematria and decoding, is one, none of this makes sense because it's so brand new to me. So it's just a depth of ignorance, and that's completely fine because there's not too much educational material out there. Obviously, they're not teaching this in school, and the concept itself, gematria, is not popular in social media or YouTube or anything like that. Then the second thing is, are we just making connections for the hell of it, like for personal gain, or to have people be like, you know, as if it's fucking voodoo?
Yep.
Those are the two things I hear the most, and you cannot tell either of those people the truth, because those are the two people that are seeking to like go to the gym once and get a six pack tomorrow.
Yeah.
The miracle pill type person, or the person that has completely chosen a belief system, and anything else that goes against it, it's like evil, you know? It's evil. So you have those two types, and that's the most common. And people who fit into either of those might be good people, like with a good agenda in mind, and they might actually want to learn. So with that being said, I'm taking that into account for anything I create in the future, because I don't want people to be confused anymore. I want there to be like this enlightenment of the code. And I mean, I've just noticed that I can only make my YouTube videos so long. I can only, you know, so I expose so much of it for free all the time, and it's still the same question over and over and over. So I'm just, you know, I know that creating something comprehensive that's in a course like structure on my website is going to be a game changer for so many people. So I'm really excited to get that out there. And I think you should do the same. You should do the same regarding your specialty, because so many people want to know. You know, one of the number one questions I get, besides what I brought up before, is, Jordan, can you decode me? And I say no to everyone.
Yeah.
I don't like decoding people, and I always send them to you. I'm like, Logan's gonna be your guy, because he's really fucking excellent at it.
Thanks.
And I think you actually enjoy doing it to some extent.
I do.
Yeah, For me, on the other hand, it's like I don't really, so I never put myself through things that I don't really enjoy doing because it's not fair.
Yeah, of course.
I turn down so much money because I don't want to get involved in something that I'm not necessarily passionate about.
Yeah, that's the thing. You got to exchange your time with something that you're going to love doing.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
So like when it comes to the money thing, like if, I mean, how easy would it be to go out there and do this and just take up all these people's decodes? But that would be unfair. At the end of the day, it's all about energy. Like, so we need to enjoy what we're actually servicing others with.
No, totally. Totally. For me personally, I know we've been talking a while. I mean, I probably should near the end of this podcast. I want to just say to all of you great decoders out there, I really appreciate and I love all of you. I really, and Jordan, man, I have so much respect and admiration and love for you. And I think, that's what the world is moving towards, at least the minority, because you don't want to be the majority. You want to be the minority. And for me as a decoder and someone who studies the mystical art platforms and all these great concepts, I feel like because I put so much time into this stuff and I've been so dedicated that, as I often say, that when you observe the code enough, the code starts to observe you. And I can't even begin to tell all you ladies and gentlemen, the things that happen in my life that people would be like, that's crazy. What are you talking to? That's not, and then, or they'll just say, oh, it's just coincidence. Or they'll just say, oh, that was luck. Or there'll be something else, right? But when you get so tapped into this code, this source code, and maybe you're there right now, ladies and gentlemen, maybe you're listening, you're the one who's tapped into this code right now. You'll just start to see that everything starts to just happen so in an orchestrated fashion. Like it just seems like more and more things in my life are getting more and more dialed in. And I'm kind of like ramping up, like speeding up, right? And it's like, I don't even need to pick days on the calendar of when I do things. I just do them. And then I look back on the calendar and I laugh with the numbers that were already in the background playing for my life. It's just ridiculous. That's my life. That's my life.
This makes me think of something because in my work, everyone wants predictions. And I've started telling people like the people who seek predictions are the ones who are too late. Like if you're early or you are on time, naturally, that's the divine path. Like when you're off time and you're always seeking to solve the problem by fucking predicting tomorrow, you're going to be caught in a vicious loop. So, I mean, I have to keep saying this more often. I don't think I have said this the way that I just said it like that, but I need to, because when people get into gematria and tie it into crypto, of course, the main purpose of it they want is to be able to predict the market. And when I stopped looking at it through that lens, and now I realized I'm just early to the quantum financial game, I don't care if like currently the market's down or soon the market's up. Like people could even remember when the market was going up. When it did, I wasn't happy about it because I don't let a market dictate my emotions. Like that's not life. That's numbers, digits on a screen moving up and down, So, but what you just said really brought this full circle, because I've started to realize like I have to plan quite a bit because I think you predominantly work alone as well. Like I work 100% alone. I do about 12 to 14 hours every single day. I might take like a half a day off once in a while. I love to work, so it's not a complaint, but it could get it's a lot sometimes, it's a lot. So there is block scheduling, and sometimes I'll schedule the day. But I've noticed when I used to pre-schedule like the whole week, it would never go according to plan. It would always be the worst weeks. Like I would try to be like, okay, I'm going to work out now. And this day I'm going to go to lunch and do this one call right here. And like, I started over planning, and it was fucking everything up for my emotional state, for like my well-being. Like, yeah, I was able to get business done, and I was able to take care of the tasks that were necessary to whatever communications were there, but I wasn't really enjoying the day.
Right.
So I love what you just brought up, and how you mentioned like just being on time and being more in tune with the code. It allows you to actually live and not exist, just like we were talking about earlier.
Totally. And then the main thing for me is the gratitude that comes after that. So like, yesterday I flew from Florida back here to Mexico, and I my flight was at 11:50 a.m., excuse me. And so I left at 10 a.m. and the ride was supposed to be like a half hour. Well, it took a little longer. And then trying to find my way down to the airport I was at, I wasn't familiar with the surroundings. I had to wait in line for other people. I get to the counter line and it was 10:50. And she's like, you just made it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I didn't even know. She's like, well, we have an hour cutoff for international. And so I just made it, right? And then that was my whole day. It was just like, then I went to my gate after going through security. Can't plan that, right? You can't plan going through airport security. So I go through and then I get to my gate and then I'm in my boarding gate. My boarding group is boarding right then and there. And that was my day yesterday. And then there was some other things as well. I don't want to go too much. But anyway, what did I do? I was like, thank you. Just in a huge state of gratitude, because that's the way I want my life to be all the time. I would be ideal if my life worked out like that all the time. So I feel like the more you're grateful for that, the more it shows up. And when you get more in tune with the code gets more in tune with you. And when you start to discover who you are and why you're here based upon, astrology, numerology, whatever, then I feel like you get more in tune. You get into the zone.
I love that. It's like your body is the instrument, and like being in tune, when your instrument plays, it will sound beautiful.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. That's
so like right. That's it. And like your instrument has a cosmic extension, like as above, so below. Like you're part of this nature. You're moving through it. And to be in a place at a specific time in divine order, it just goes to show you like your instrument is in tune with the cosmic instrument.
That's how I felt. Yeah,
it's like a big piano, and there's all these notes. And a lot of the time when we start planning and thinking about tomorrow and never being present, not being in the now, it's like we're playing the song one octave off.
Yeah. And I feel like you're right. You're dead on, being in tune. And that's how I feel. And ladies, you're like wondering, well, how do you get in tune? Right? Turn off the static.
Listen to this podcast again.
Yeah. Go listen.
Because how much more beautiful was this podcast? It literally exposed, so much. Like, I think this is the most epic podcast because it's coming full circle the more and more. That's what's great about, it reminds me of like jazz musicians or something, like jazz musicians who just get together. They never met each other. They don't like jam all the time. And then they're all just like, they get together, they say what key they're going to go in, and then they just go, and their level of understanding of the music and how to play their instrument and the I don't know how to say it. It's like there's a big difference between I'm not even gonna say it because it's gonna sound fucked up, but I was gonna say there's a big difference between like fucking and making love, And it's like when life is just like consistently going with the flow and living in the now, it's happening, and it's happening because you're allowing it to happen.
Yeah. Most definitely. And that's how I feel like you get to bliss. I feel like I've turned off so much of the static on the world stage. And then when I'm observing the static, I'm consciously aware that I'm observing the static. And that's another layer to get to. Right. So it's one thing to say, I don't watch television anymore. Okay, great. But then what's the other static in your life? And then are you aware that you're observing that static? Static, I mean, the influencers. So there's layers to this onion, and I'm at a point personally now where like I wake up, live in a state of gratitude. So I was so happy to get back here to Mexico. It's like, I was in the US and it was like so fast paced and I wasn't used to that. And then I come back to Mexico and I'm walking down the street, going to the grocery store. I'm like, oh my God, I love this place, because there wasn't a lot of static going on. And so I was like free to roam. But I went to the US, I didn't have anything to compare it to. I go there and it's like it's the rat race, and it's like the static is so congested. And then I'm just like, and for me, I feel like I get out of tune in a certain way, or at least I'd have to be consciously more aware of being in tune or out of tune, So it was a really great experience for me. And I have big things in the works for my subscribers. And I can't wait to join you again and do another one of these, as I always do. And just who knows when that's going to be. Just like I said, it's like, let's call Jordan, text Jordan, see if he wants to do a podcast. And here we are. This is
Wow.
how many happened. How does it happen? How many times now with us? Probably every time. We think we've never planned it.
Every time except the first time.
Except for the first time. Yeah.
I think the first time was the only time because we didn't know each other. So we got on a phone call, and that phone call was fucking forever. It was like 3 hours. Yeah, we got on like a 3 hour phone call to set up a conversation on a podcast, which, yeah. Did you say that today was the day you got back in Mexico?
Yeah, well, I got back yesterday, but
okay.
The first full day. Yeah, today was kind of a wasted day. You guys are traveling.
Yeah, because I was looking at I typed in Mexico into the Gematria calculator just for fun, and it's 69 in English ordinal, and May Day is 69 in English ordinal.
Nice.
And again, that's like the yin yang, so it's like that's something that like just made me think about so many things, today being 5-1 and that 1-5 connection, 5-1 coming up so much. I feel like we've both been talking about it a lot, but yeah.
Well, I moved into this new building. It's building 15. Yeah, I know. I live in unit 1. So it's the 151, and that's
holy shit.
60. Yeah, right. But the 15 is the devil, which runs this reality, and then you have the 51, which is antimony, and that's the all-seeing eye, perhaps the implant in your brain. So.
Wow, I love it, man. I'm so excited for our next podcast.
Me too.
Already, while we're still in this one.
Right.
But it's probably a good time that we wrap up.
Yeah, people are like, yeah, exactly. Right on. So, well, it's been an honor and a pleasure as always, man. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're from my channel, please go over to Jordan and subscribe to his. He's doing his weekly lives on Friday. That's his day. And he's got so many gems he drops. I get in there when I can get in there and listen. He's got so many gems to drop, and a lot of wisdom and free knowledge. The only thing that it's not free is your time that you have to invest in it. So I guess you can't say it's free knowledge. It's just knowledge that you're going to get from the great Jordan at Waters Above Crypto. And go take his course if you want to learn about cryptocurrency, because he's got a lot of great stuff to talk about with that as well. So
I really appreciate you, man. Much love to you and your community. I'm so excited that, it's been probably a full year now that we've been connected, right?
Something like that. I can't wait to look and see how long it's been in between podcasts, because I'm sure. Cause I remember one time I was looking up some date between when we first connected and another podcast, and it was some perfect number. Yeah, I mean, I think I was just looking at your, ladies and gentlemen, another way you can decode yourself. Go look and see when you started if you're an influencer and you have a YouTube channel, not just somebody who watches videos, go look and see when you first opened your YouTube account. Look at that day on the calendar. Oh yeah, mine is so different from when I actually started making content, because it was probably like a personal account that I converted into a YouTube channel. I'm talking about like with this Waters Above. Like, when did you start that one? My first video was probably sometime in March, but March of 2021. So like I just got over the 1 year mark of running the channel. Oh, okay. Yeah, man. And but I started it on 21st of July 2016. That was when I opened up the account. So the way that YouTube calculates that date is the day that the Gmail account or whatever was associated with the because you know how they're all like under a blanket, like Google thing. Yeah, so that's the way they calculate it. So it's a little bit like unfair in a sense, because there's like a 4 or 5 year gap or whatever. But yeah, that's definitely these numbers and the way they all work together. Yeah. Remember I was telling you the other day how I had 34,000.3 subs on like a specific day. I was just making a joke with you because that's the 7 times 7 times 7. Yeah. The 777. Well, what was interesting is that, yeah, I think it's the birth. Hello? Oh, you there? Okay. Well, I lost you for a second. You there? I think I lost Jordan. All right. Well, I guess we're going to end it on that note. Are you back? No, I think I lost Jordan. I don't know if it's me or him, but I guess that was our sign to end this transmission. This great transmission. So all of you great decoders, thank you so very much for your support for myself, Logan, the tour guide, and the great Jordan over at Waters Above Crypto. We definitely really appreciate all of you, sending you much love. And as Jordan said, high vibes. I'm going to end this recording, this transmission. Until next time, folks, we will see you later.